heard, the aircraft was instructed to land at Jaipur. So why were these instructions not followed? That is the main question. How can an aircraft just transgress Indian airspace without conforming to the rules of India? So wherever the aircraft flies, they have to fly as per the regulations of the state, not as per their requirement or whatever instruction they have received from their country. So why did the Indian airspace or the Air Force jets allow the aircraft to carry on the flight further? That needs to be probed.
Absolutely, and that maneuvering lasted for a couple of minutes. I thank you for joining us with that perspective and going across to Meghna once again to really take us through the live location of this passenger plane and also the timeline essentially, Meghna, when it crossed the Indian airspace.
Well, absolutely, Kritsveen, this is the tracker that you can see of the airline. This is an Iranian airplane of the Mahan Air, which has taken off from Tehran. This is around 7:30 a.m. and then it is at 9 p.m. and this is the India-Pakistan border. It crosses across from Pakistan and it comes into India, and this is the animation that you can see of the airplane doing circles over India and then passing away. But let me explain to you what happened is that at 9 a.m. is when it travelled across from Tehran. It crossed Pakistan's airspace, then entered Delhi's, India's airspace, and this is roughly when they sought for permission to land in the Delhi airport at the IGI, which was clearly denied. As you can see, these circles that it undergoes, this is the time when you'll see even the altitude as well as the speed dropping, because as it does circles over the Delhi airspace, it also then asks for permission to land in Jaipur. Now Jaipur is merely here, that's Delhi and that's Jaipur. It seeks permission to land in Jaipur, that was also denied. That's the time when it was circling over the Delhi and Haryana border, following which the aircraft then continues towards Uttar Pradesh. You will see how it crosses all over Uttar Pradesh, over Lucknow as well. Then it crosses into Bihar, then it goes across to Patna. From there it then enters West Bengal. After that, around 11 a.m. is when you can see it crossing India's airspace and entering. There you have it. This is where you have the Bangladesh border, and at 11 o'clock you can see it crossing from India's border and airspace and crossing into Bangladesh's airspace. That's where it is. 11 a.m. it crossed into Bangladesh's airspace. It had entered Indian airspace around 9 a.m. Of course, your defense experts, strategic experts are telling us the importance and also the protocols which need to be followed. What happens if there is indeed, as the threat was, a bomb-laden aircraft which is flying over India's airspace? Should it be given permission, for example, to come and land in the IGI airport? Imagine the kind of risk that it is going to be posing at all the people. And also, can it then be allowed to go across to Jaipur? Those are massive security reasons which need to be looked into, and there are protocols which are in place. As one of the experts was also explaining, one of the options that the Indian Air Force also have is to shoot down any such flight. Remember, this was a flight which had originated from Iran and it was entering China. Which is why the strategic significance of the track and the route of the aircraft is equally important.
Yes, and just to point it out for viewers, the nature of the bomb threat is still unclear. But Priyank, when this aircraft, which was headed to China as its final destination, had entered the Indian airspace, an alert from the Indian Air Traffic Control was shared with the plane. We are being told, of course, it was denied permission to land, but as a result of this, the Indian Air Force fighter jets from Punjab and Jodhpur air bases were also scrambled to intercept the plane. So what is it what kind of intel information first up came in to the Indian Air Force, and what happened thereafter? What are sources telling you?
Yeah, certainly. This SOS call, the emergency call, was made to the ATC I'm sorry, back here in India was around 9:20. Later to that, there was an SOS call which was also given to the Indian Air Force, and media persons have also spotted that there was a lone Sukhoi aircraft which was also spotted soon before the launch of the light combat helicopter at Jodhpur. We know that Jodhpur is on the bordering area of Rajasthan and Pakistan, and this was a route probably which was taken according to the ATC flight tracker, which Meghna was showing for this particular flight, which was W581. Soon after this SOS call was made that the aircraft wanted to land on Indian airspace at any of the airports. This Sukhoi aircraft probably was also given an instruction to be on high alert, because there was a very high level preparation which was going on at the Jodhpur airport, and there was no chance that Indian authorities or Indian Air Force could have taken any kind of risk. Following to which the flight reached towards Delhi, and while the flight was already on the Delhi and Haryana border, it took a loop and U-turn and then went towards Jaipur. But since no permission was given, looking at the suspicion which was being raised after the pilot was also contacted with the ATC, and the ATC finally decided that the flight can actually take its route back towards the final destination, which was in China. Then the flight was once again diverted after consultation with the pilot. Remember, the Indian authorities could not have also taken any risk of any loss of life of any of the passengers who were on board, and after doing a proper threat assessment, this final decision was taken that the flight will actually be routed towards the final destination, which was in China. As we have already told you to viewers that around 11:20 the location of the flight was seen near Dhaka, and in few minutes from now the flight will be actually landing there in the Chinese airspace, and it's for the Chinese authorities, because we have to imagine that the flight was en route from Iran and it was en route towards China. So anyone who was related to either Iranian side or could have been related to the Chinese side could have been involved in making this kind of desperate attempt to create vitiated atmosphere or create panic, or there could have been actually something which could have triggered this kind of on-air blast. So these possibilities cannot be ignored as per this moment. What we have got to know that within few minutes from now the flight will be entering the Chinese airspace. Back to you.
So the final destination was certainly China, and multiple questions that come to light, Priyank. But if we talk about the timing of it all, remember today is when the LCH was also inducted into the Indian Air Force, and we're talking about Sukhoi fighter jets from Punjab and Jodhpur air bases that was scrambled to intercept the plane. So Meghna, more details coming to light with regards to another lone Sukhoi jet that was seen over the Jodhpur Indian Air Force station before the LCH induction ceremony as well. So whether or not these are correlated incidents or coincidentally happen to have happened at the same point in time is something that is also something we're looking out for.
Yes, absolutely. The defense experts have been saying that perhaps the two of them may or may not be related. We are still awaiting. It is one of the proud moments of India to have the LCN being formally inducted today. But remember, Christine, when was the first time that it was being deployed? 2 years back. And against whom? Against China. The PLA, the People's Liberation Army of China, is where it was first used. And this is somewhere in the eastern Ladakh border, which is somewhere around here. And it was used to counter China and its forces. And incidentally, this today is happening in Jodhpur. Now this is where Jodhpur is, and this is where this aircraft was doing the rounds and circles of. This was an aircraft which was headed from Iran and incidentally again headed towards China. And here is where you can see Jodhpur. Jodhpur Air Force Base is where Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, was part of the induction ceremony where he did the Sarva Dharm Puja, then he went on a sortie, and then there were water cannon salutes which were done for the LCN, the first indigenous LCN in India. This is Jodhpur, and as you can see around that time 9 o'clock is when this purple line that you can see is the flight tracker of this aircraft which was headed from Tehran. It was going towards China, Guangzhou to be precise, and it crossed into first it covered and rather crossed over Pakistan, then it crossed into Indian airspace. This has happened around 9 a.m. following which it does circles, as you can see, around Delhi. This is where it sought permission to land. That permission was denied, and then it, as you can see in this, it does at least 2 to 3 rounds of Delhi and around the Haryana border, and it takes another big loop here. This is again around over Haryana when it sought permission to land in Jaipur. Now this is where Jaipur is, that is where Jodhpur is. It was denied permission to land in Jaipur, which was very close to where the LCN induction ceremony was happening today. Following which then it took off, and then it seems like we've flight tracker then had taken off, and it crossed all over Uttar Pradesh, then it crossed over Lucknow, it crossed over Patna as well as it crossed over Bihar, then it crossed over West Bengal, and then finally it had gone into Bangladesh airspace. What we do know right now is that it is very close to Myanmar airspace right now, having crossed over almost the whole of Bangladesh. These are live updates that we are getting. We'll continue to track this flight very closely, because the bomb scare is something which is a massive security threat. To give permission for a plane to land in Indian airspace when there is a bomb threat on it is, of course, may just have very disastrous consequences. It was then asked to leave. It was flying over, as we were showing you, over the Delhi-Haryana border. Took 3 rounds there, then it took another round which was further over Haryana. Then we saw it cross all across Uttar Pradesh, went across to Bihar, over Patna, and then crossed over from West Bengal into Bangladesh airspace. This happened around 11 a.m. Krithveen is when it crossed over India's airspace and it entered Bangladesh. Now it is somewhere close to the Bangladesh-Myanmar air border. So we are still going to be tracking it. But you're absolutely right. There are defense experts who are saying it's quite interesting, the timing of this bomb threat, which is right over the Indian airspace at a time when India's Made in India indigenous LCHs were being inducted in Jodhpur, very close to where this bomb threat aircraft was doing the rounds of.
The plane, though, is continuing on its flight path towards China. Security agencies are monitoring the plane and the situation very closely is what we are being told, and we're tracking that flight live for you here on Times Now. Let me quickly go back once again to Wing Commander Praful Bakshi. Now, Wing Commander, according to sources, inputs were received by security agencies in the national capital about the possibility of a bomb on board this flight. The nature of the bomb threat is still unclear, but this has certainly triggered an alert, and thereafter permission was not granted to the plane to land in the national capital. But I want to understand from you, sir, if we follow the flight tracker very closely, it also comes to light how this passenger airline lost its path, kept on encircling on the Haryana-Delhi airspace, and then made a sudden emergency descent of height as well, and that's exactly what triggered panic. Sir?
Yes, it may have tried to carry out a number of maneuvers, because nobody knows what was happening inside the cockpit. What the aircraft was trying to do, nobody knows. We have to understand that the situation inside the cockpit was the hijackers were setting the pilot to do. Probably they did not want, they were offered Jaipur, they did not land at Jaipur. They were wanting to probably embarrass India by landing at Delhi. These things are not very clear. So the only option left for the Indian authorities was to let him go out of the country. Otherwise, Iran, it is taken from Iran. Iran is having a turmoil. There is a lot of political turmoil going on there. Something must be there connected with that. So that could be the possibility.
Bakshi, also if you could rather would want to throw some more light on the nature of this kind of an intervention into the Indian airspace at a time when the LCH has been inducted into the Indian Air Force. We're being told that Sukhoi jets were also thereafter asked to move from the Jodhpur air base. So the timing of it all, do you also want to read into that?
You see, first thing is the alacrity of Indian Air Force has to be appreciated. Indian Air Force acted in very short time. They were already busy carrying out the flypast in Jodhpur. They were already flying, and here they scrambled from a Punjab base, the Sukhois. You see the versatility of and the maneuverability of Air Force, of course, is appreciated. But the command and control system is so good that the commanders told exactly what to do. The whole scenario is taking place. Everything, of course, they were trying to take us by surprise. But Indian Air Force did not get surprised at all. So whatever action they took, they were very clear. Thank you very much.
A scenario, Wing Commander, what kind of communication essentially takes place between the air traffic control and the Indian Air Force? Because we're told, and like you pointed out, with utmost proficiency, the fighter jets of the Indian Air Force did tail this passenger flight till it made its way out of India.
SOP. They will carry out the hot pursuit. They will carry out, in fact, they will carry out the Arctic conversation, try to carry out Arctic conversation and instruct the pilot of the hijacked aircraft, whatever instructions have been given by the authorities. They will try to do that. And even in case they find that the aircraft is carrying out some maneuvers which is threatening the Indian territory, they are clear to shoot it down. They could have shot it down also. Or if they found out that he is trying to carry out a suicidal attack over a vital point, they could have killed it, shot it down also.
Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. Wing Commander Praful Bakshi sharing all those details with us. But yes, Times Now is tracking that flight live for you. And certainly a big update coming in with regards to this very Iranian flight, the final destination being China, and a bomb threat that...
flight. While the flight was already about to reach the IJ airport, the flight was descending. It was lowering down its height from the ground level, and that information was also given to the pilot by the ATC that you are not supposed to land here unless or until there is proper permission which is being granted to you. Later to that, the pilot was instructed to move towards Jaipur, and then we saw in the flight tracker that the flight took a U-turn. After a loop turn, the flight moved towards Jaipur, but before it could actually land in Jaipur, some sort of decision was taken by the pilot, and after taking several loop cuts, the flight later on moved towards Bangladesh. At around 11:20 was the time when the Indian authorities actually relaxed, because at around 11 o'clock early in the morning, 11 hours, the flight actually left the Indian airspace and entered the Bangladeshi airspace. Let me tell you to our viewers that why Indian authorities were already on high alert, because the relationship in between the both group
so
two
let's
countries,
break down the entire incident in its entirety for our viewers quickly. Stay on with us, Priyank. Now this is the aircraft that we're talking about, the Mahan Air that left Iran and was headed to China. So this is the aircraft that we're talking about, and as a result of the repeated maneuvering that took place over the Delhi NCR area, this is the kind of maneuvering that we're talking about, viewers, and that's the location, the tracker, the plane tracker, and how it moved from Delhi close to Jaipur, Lucknow, Patna, thereafter crossed the Indian territory and crossed over Bangladesh, and now it's of course headed towards China. In fact, we're being told that very soon it's also going to be making a landing in China. So that's the movement essentially that we're talking about. But what's also important is this graph. Now this graph essentially represents the altitude and the speed. What triggered that kind of panic here amongst the security agencies in India is this kind of a descent that you see close to 9:30 a.m. this morning, you see the sharp descent, which means that the height suddenly fell and the plane dropped its height, and that's exactly what triggered the panic here. The conversation, the communication that took place with the air traffic control, and that's exactly what prompted the fighter jets as well to take off from both Jaipur and Punjab air bases. Now, they were tailing this particular passenger plane till it made its way out of the Indian territory, and certainly this passenger plane was on the radar of our security forces, of the Indian Air Force fighter jets. So that's exactly what prompted that movement, and you can see these Indian Air Force Sukhoi fighter jets that were scrambled from Punjab and Jodhpur air bases to intercept this passenger flight. So that's the result of what we saw here, and Priyank continues to stay on with us. Priyank, we're tracking that movement live for our viewers, but it's very, very interesting how the plane, the passenger plane that was headed to China, was maneuvering over the national capital region for a couple of minutes, and that's exactly what triggered panic here.
Yeah, not even that. It has been moving from very close quarters of all those important defense installation here in India. And when the flight was about to lower down its height from the ground, the agency certainly came out on high alert. For sure, the threat has been removed. The threat is certainly out of the Indian airspace. But the manner in which this particular development happened early in the morning on the day when the Indian government was coming up with their self-made light combat aircraft, the helicopter, it was a very important day for the Indian Air Force and the history of Indian defense system, following to which there was no compromise which could have been taken. Fortunately, by taking a conscious decision, by giving full support to this Mahan Air Force aircraft, which was W581, the flight has now been removed from the Indian airspace. But the development which followed since early in the morning is giving a close example of how the Indian agencies were keeping a very prompt action on the development which followed for the flight which was en route from Iran, and it was supposed to land China. Both the countries does not share that kind of good relationship with the Indian government, that is for sure, and that was the reason because of which all these flights were kept on a very high alert. The Sukhoi flight also took over. There was no threat which was given to this flight that our viewers should need to understand, but keeping a close watch and giving proper aid to that vertical flight and keeping your territory also safe is something which was a conscious decision which was taken by the Indian several agencies, because the Air Force was also roped into this. We know that the air traffic control at several Air Force stations were also put on high alert, that if and at all there is an emergency situation, the option of giving some sort of permission for the landing of this particular aircraft could have been given, but there was no specific information which was given from the pilot of this particular aircraft to the Indian agencies. That's why this decision was taken. This is what sources have been suggesting. So the threat has been removed, but the development which followed since early morning on such an important day when India was supposed to make history in the aviation sector, in the defense sector for the aviation, this particular development happening was certainly a very serious threat for the Indian counterparts. That's why this decision has been taken, and I would once again tell it to our viewers that this flight, which was having a bomb threat en route from Iran going towards China, has been removed from the Indian airspace. That's the biggest sign of relief.
Absolutely, Priyank, and the nature of the specific bomb threat that was received on Mahan Air is something that is still yet to be ascertained, and it's something that Indian authorities also are trying to in fact determine what was the exact nature of the bomb threat in question, as a result of which the Indian Air Force was actually pressed into service to escort the plane out of Indian airspace. It had to in fact do a couple of sorties on the Indian airspace itself at the time when its altitude actually came down quite significantly, creating panic on the ground here in India. And we can actually see this. This is the loop that we're actually talking about over the NCR territory and its vicinity, where the Mahan Air for a couple of minutes actually ended up looping around the Indian airspace for quite some time, and that led to a lot of uncertainty as to what exactly the nature of the threat that this particular plane had received actually was. Thereafter, after the Indian Air Air Force was pressed into service. The Sukhois were actually deployed. The plane was in fact escorted out of Indian airspace, after which it actually managed to make its way across the Indian border into Bangladeshi airspace. It was denied permission to land here in India, first in Delhi and then of course in Jaipur, after which it made its way into Bangladesh. So those two or three loops that the plane actually had to conduct over Indian airspace is something that created panic here, and the exact nature of the threat, the kind of bomb threat that this particular airline actually received, is still something that is unclear and needs to be clarified. We're also being told right now that the Indian Air Force is also expected to issue a statement in a short while from now to exactly describe the circumstances that triggered an alert here in India, where its own Air Force had to be deployed into service in order to escort this particular plane out of Indian airspace into the airspace of another country. So that's the loop that we're talking about, where for a couple of minutes it was extremely unclear as to what the plane was actually doing and whether or not there was a perceptible threat that was gauged by Indian authorities here, where there was uncertainty about whether or not the plane might be allowed to land. In the final decision, it wasn't, and then the plane was actually made to make its way into Bangladeshi territory as well. So an extremely nervous few minutes, one can say, but the threat clearly having been averted over Indian airspace, and the Mahan aircraft is now out of Indian airspace, managed to make its way into Bangladesh. It's expected to fly over Myanmar before it finally makes its way into Guangzhou in China, where ultimately it is expected to descend. So this of course is the threat perception that India had received, where the Mahan aircraft had to make several loops into Indian territory, and then of course this is something that also triggered a lot of tension here in India, where the altitude of the plane concerned descended significantly at the time that it's actually managed to make its way into the Indian airspace, hovering above the NCR territory for an extended period of time. So the altitude dips from approximately 29,000 feet thereabouts to almost around 21,000 feet. That's what you're actually witnessing here, and that ended up creating a sense of alarm, so to speak, here in India, as a result of which the Air Force had to be pressed into service and then eventually escort the plane out of Indian airspace. So a significant dip. You're almost seeing a dip of about 7,000 to 7,500 feet when the aircraft is hovering around the Indian airspace, comes down from approximately 29,000 feet to about 21,660. That's the limit. So a descent of almost 8,000 feet. So what is it exactly that triggered that drastic descent on the part of the flight concerned is something that also needs to be ascertained and described also. So the Indian Air Force is expected to issue a statement. So Priyank, those several loops that we saw above Indian airspace, the drastic descent of approximately 8,000 feet, these are all questions that need to be answered, and hopefully the Indian Air Force will also clarify that in a short while from now. So we're getting a piece of breaking news now, right? The Indian Air Force has in fact clarified 2 times now the exact nature of why it was actually pressed into operation. The Indian Air Force jets were actually scrambled after information was received, and a safe distance protocol was actually followed as per the SOPs prescribed by the Indian Air Force. The aircraft was allowed to continue on its flight towards China after Iranian agencies intervened and asked the Indian Air Force to disregard the threat. So that's the important piece of information coming in, that the threat was in fact, according to the Iranian authorities, something that the Indian Air Force ought to have disregarded, and the Indian Air Force continues to say that we followed it closely till the time that the aircraft left the Indian airspace. The aircraft is now out of Indian airspace. That's the information that Indian Air Force sources are now explaining to times. Now let me go across to Maruf Raza as well, who will take us through some of these details. Maruf, the Iranian authorities got in touch with the Indian Air Force after the Sukhois were pressed into service to escort the aircraft out of Indian airspace. The Indian Air Force was asked to disregard the bomb threat that was actually issued, and that's something that ended up prompting the Indian authorities to further affirm their decision to escort the concerned airliner out of Indian airspace.
Well, the airline, as far as I understand, has more than an hour ago gone into Bangladeshi airspace and beyond. So the threat is not there to us anymore. But the interesting thing is that the airline did come in with a certain threat, and that caused alarm. The Indian Air Force, if it had taken proactive action, which is in the event of fearing a major threat to our security, had blown off this aircraft, if it was targeting or going near any of the VVIP targets like the Prime Minister's office or Rashtrapati Bhavan or any of the other secretariats, that is when the threat would have been reacted to. It hasn't happened. So as of now, the good thing is that the aircraft is out of Indian airspace, and in such situations, the Air Force needs permission from the highest level to take IFF action, that is identification of friend or foe. And if that doesn't respond, doesn't come from the other aircraft, which could be possibly a threat to our security, then obviously that is knocked out. The most prominent such action was taken in the 80s against a Korean airliner 007, interestingly, where more than 300 people were knocked out when it was flying past Japanese and Russian airspace.
And Maruf, sorry to just interrupt you there, because an important piece of information coming is that the aircraft, the Mahan aircraft, is now in Chinese airspace, which was actually where it was meant to go. Guangzhou was its final destination. There was a period of about 45 minutes to more than an hour when the aircraft was hovering over Indian airspace and going around in loops, and that's where there was a certain threat perception that the Indian Air Force actually ended up receiving, for the simple reason that the descent of the aircraft into Indian airspace was quite dramatic, more than about 8,000 feet in descent from approximately 29,000 feet in altitude to about 21,000. And now the Indian Air Force, after having been safely escorted out of Indian airspace into Bangladeshi airspace, has now finally managed to make its way into China, Maruf.
Yeah, you know what surprises me is two or three things. One is that the aircraft should take the route via India to go to China, because normally if you look at how aircrafts fly, they fly on relatively the most short and convenient route, and that should have gone from Iran via Afghanistan, Pakistan into China. So I cannot understand at this stage, I don't have enough information, why it would come towards Delhi and then go all the way down towards Bangladesh and then make it towards China. Second thing is that Iran, whatever else the United States might believe, is a country that has reasonably good relations with India. So while the aircraft was doing the routine activity from Tehran to China, why would an aircraft from Iran carry bombs and come towards India? The only logical conclusion is that both the pilot of the aircraft and maybe some elements within the aircraft did not have civil aviation intent, which means that they were obviously looking at doing something more nefarious, and that is why the route which was adopted by the aircraft became a matter of concern, and the fact that it was carrying bombs, which in today's day and age should not be that difficult to detect, because all airlines in the world are using lots of detection methodologies. Back to you.
The route that was adopted by the aircraft, Maruf, is something that you're also raising questions over. It's now finally managed to make its way into Chinese airspace. The aircraft has now entered Chinese airspace just a short while ago. That is what authorities are now confirming. And let me in fact take you through the statement, the official statement that has now been released about the exact circumstances around the activity in the Indian airspace on the part of this Mahan aircraft. On 3rd October 2022, intimation was received of a bomb scare on an airline bearing Iranian registration when it was transiting through Indian airspace. IF aircraft was scrambled, which followed the aircraft at a safe distance. Now, this is the action that was initiated by Indian authorities while the plane was in Indian airspace. The aircraft offered the option to land at Jaipur and then at Chandigarh. However, the pilot decided his unwillingness to divert to either of the two airports. After a while, information was received from Tehran, the capital of Iran, to disregard the bomb scare. So that's an important intervention being made there by Iranian authorities, following which the aircraft continued on its journey towards its final destination, which is Guangzhou in China. All actions were taken by the IAF as per laid down procedure, jointly with the Ministry of Civil Aviation MOCA and the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, the BCAS. The aircraft was under close radar surveillance by the Air Force throughout the Indian airspace. So those 45 minutes to an hour where the aircraft was hovering over Indian airspace and circulating in loops is where the Indian Air Force was pressed into service, following which there was an intervention on the part of the Iranian authorities who contacted their counterparts here in India and asked them to disregard the bomb scare. So that is something that appears to have allayed a lot of fears, and thereafter, after having been escorted out of Indian airspace, the aircraft made its way into Bangladesh and now has managed to enter Chinese airspace, presumably now finally on its way to Guangzhou, which was its eventual destination. So that's the information coming in from Indian authorities about the specific threat that was received and what prompted the Indian authorities to press its Air Force into service to ensure that there was no cause for alarm here in India and the aircraft was escorted safely out of Indian airspace. Let me once again go back to Maruf Raza for more on this. So Maruf, the Iranian authorities actually intervened at a certain point at the time that the aircraft was still over Indian airspace and asked their Indian counterparts to disregard the bomb threat.
Yeah, that was, I think it's very important that the aircraft got the kind of support from the Iranian authorities. In fact, I was just looking at a map, and as you said to me, Guangzhou was its eventual destination. Now it seems logical to me that the aircraft would have come via India, flown across the Gangetic Plains, gone via Bangladesh, and gone close to Guangzhou, which is at about the same latitude as Bangladesh and Assam. So therefore, for the aircraft to go from Iran via Pakistan, go via the northern areas of Kashmir into China and head to Beijing would be a route if the aircraft was flying Iran to Beijing. If the aircraft, as we have seen, has flown from Iran via India, Bangladesh to Guangzhou, it seems logical now because that's the route it would have taken, considering Guangzhou's latitude is very similar to Bangladesh if you look at it on the map. The only thing is that where did the bomb threat come from? And if it was a serious bomb threat.
Right. So thanks for that input, Maruf. But we are, of course, panning to the visuals of the Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, now, in fact, headed towards the light combat helicopter, Brahmastra. And in fact, it's expected that the Defence Minister will be, in fact, airborne in a short while from now to take the first flight of the LCH, which has now been inducted as part of the fleet of the Indian Air Force, boosting its defences even further and contributing to what is a major fillip to Atmanirbharta.
It is a very, very important military platform that has now been put together by Hindustan Aeronautics. It's a great achievement for India's defense manufacturing capabilities. It shows that the government's vision is very much online. This is part of a project that was sanctioned after the Kargil conflict, where it was felt that such helicopters, duly armed, are essential for giving support to our troops who would have to battle on icy heights, where fast-moving fighter jets find it very difficult to identify enemy-held bunkers or sangars. As you may remember, and as would many Indians, that was the state of play in May-June 1999 when the Kargil conflict was taking place. The second thing is that the helicopter has been tested both in high altitude and in the plains. Jodhpur, I've been there, is a major base for our attack helicopters, and this variant will operate both out of Jodhpur and in the higher reaches. The point that I want to bring out, and which hasn't really been covered even with respect to the Raksha Mantri's long speech, was that the whole speech, barring aside an odd mention in the end, gave the impression that the aircraft is only going to be operated by the Air Force. That is not the case. The aircraft will be operated also by the Indian Army, and the first set of 8 these helicopters have been given 4 each to the Army and the Air Force. A total of 15 have been made in the first lot, and 120 to 140 will be made eventually.
Right.
So it's a very important piece of equipment, both for ground-based troops in mountains
and the Air Force as well,
in support of offensive operations in plains and in mountains.
Right. In fact, let me take this across to Group Captain Anupam Banerjee as well, who's joining us on the broadcast for his inputs. Group Captain Banerjee, thank you for speaking to us. Now, this helicopter has been inducted into the fleet after some stringent testing conditions that it's been actually experimented in, including deserts as well as Siachen. This happened in February 2020 after it was, and it was thereafter that was confirmed to being part of the Indian fleet. So tell us about some of its capabilities and the kind of conditions that it actually has the wherewithal to sustain.
Yeah, light combat helicopter induction is definitely a step forward towards our dream of Atmanirbharta. As you know, Indian Air Force is one of the very few forces which operates Russian attack helicopter, US attack helicopter, and now an indigenous attack helicopter. It indeed is a very, very varied group of helicopters that it works toward the same role. And as you know, Indian Air Force, the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, some of its helicopters have really done very well, both with the Army and Air Force. And light combat helicopter is definitely a shot in the arm for the Indian Air Force. And if you look at its firepower and the overall capability, it's at par with most of the modern platforms that are at present flying. So it's a great way forward for Atmanirbharta.
And Group Captain Banerjee, also take us through how it's also going to aid the Army in the synergy that we can expect between the Army as well as the Air Force, because according to the Ministry of Defence, 10 of these helicopters will be, of course, used by the Indian Air Force and an additional 5 by the Indian Army. So take us through the synergy that we can expect.
I didn't get the question. Can you please tell it again?
Yes, I'll just repeat myself. 10 of the aircraft that have been inducted will, of course, be deployed by the Indian Air Force in its various operations. But 5 of the aircraft, at least for the time being, will also be used for service by the Indian Army. So tell us about the kind of synergy that we can expect between both the forces in the use of this aircraft, this helicopter.
I couldn't get your question actually. Because of poor audio quality, but if I get that correct, that whether this helicopter, as you know, is indigenously manufactured, and what happens is that with further improvement and better weapon system being integrated, India will have the capability to upgrade it in future. That's the biggest advantage of an indigenous platform, that you can keep upgrading it in future and keep improving on it compared to any other platform. So definitely, it will be integrated, like Mr. Maruf Raja said, that it is Indian Army and Air Force both getting it as you know, the Apache is also part of Indian Army and Indian Air Force. Indian Army is soon getting it. Air Force is part of it. So it will be very interesting to see how Indian Air Force integrates a Russian platform and American platform and Indian platform all together into the role of its counter armored offensive and overall integration into the total, air operation. So it's definitely something to look forward to, and as air warriors, we'll definitely be very, very thrilled to see Indian Air Force operating it and taking it to betterment with every passing day.
And let me take this across to Mr. Maruf Raza as well. What are some of the similarities as well as the distinctions that this light combat helicopter has with the advanced light helicopter Dhruv, specifically with regards to some of its stealth capabilities as well as night attack capabilities, Maruf?
Dhruv has been manufactured by HAL, DRDO combined. So basically, the fact is that Dhruv, this is lighter, more agile and an advanced version of the Dhruv, I would say, at least in some areas. Because for example, on the Dhruv, a certain variant was being added on with machine guns and all placed on the Dhruv, whereas certain variants, if I understand correctly, were not fully armed. This one is a combat helicopter. It's not just a light helicopter.
Yes.
So the advantages are that this variant is what military men would call a flying tank. There are others. The more advanced version or the more powerful version is the right word. The Apache AH-64 that we've got from the Americans. But the Army, and your question to Group Captain Banerjee, what kind of synergy that needs to be between the Army and the Air Force?
That's correct.
There has to be a lot of synergy. The airspace, the Air Force are past masters of the airspace. They know exactly, they have the whole Indian airspace nicely mapped out on their systems. They know exactly the kind of responses that need to be put into play in certain situations, as you just brought out prior to this, when you were talking about the Iranian airline which went over Indian airspace and how the Indian Air Force, true to form, reacted very quickly when it started circling around Delhi, which is a national security threat. It has been identified for years as one of the areas which would need quick reaction from the Air Force units that are placed around Palam to respond to it minute to minute, 24/7. So the Air Force is far, far more adept at handling airspace, but notwithstanding that, the Indian Army is now got its act together, because the Indian Army had been flying helicopters for ages, but these were the Cheetahs and the Chetaks, which was part of the Army Aviation Corps. But now this kind of weapons platform is more so a part of Aviation Corps, where you get the firepower, and people particularly who would be trained also on the operations of tanks on the ground would be duly trained also with the operational role such helicopters have to play, because they are, as a thumb rule, you can say that one helicopter, if used properly in battle, can knock off a squadron of tanks or more. A squadron is 14 tanks. So that is the kind of efficacy attack helicopters bring on battle. Knocking off the number of tanks depends on the firepower it has. This one has rockets, it has the magic missiles, which are French variants. This also has a nose-mounted 20mm gun, which is good to knock out light vehicles or light armored vehicles, infantry combat vehicles. So it's a pretty potent weapon system. It can knock off trenches and the bunkers and sangars, which infamously were occupied by the Pakistanis around Kargil.
Yes.
And now a similar situation has come to be across the LAC in Ladakh. So these platforms have an advantage of what they call standoff distance. Standoff distance means at a particular point they can stand in the air and knock a target, and the enemy does not have, the ground troops would not have the necessary distance the rockets can cover to knock it off the air. So it can happily position itself in the air, knock off a couple of targets and then pull back. And that is a very big advantage that attack and combat helicopters have vis-a-vis ground troops who have limitations on how far their machine guns and their missiles can reach in the air. So that is the big advantage. And finally, the pilot is very well equipped in this as compared to the earlier variants.
Okay.
I mean, he has head-mounted sights. He has a whole lot of equipment in his helmet, which really give him the kind of eyes and ears. And if you see the photographs of the helicopter, it has glass cockpits, but these are bulletproof glass cockpits. So therefore, the helicopter can allow the pilot to see above his head and sideways while he's operating in a war zone. And it can take high altitude. 16,500 feet is the tested altitude. But the Indian Air Force in the past is known to push those limits, as it has done in Siachen. Because remember, the Siachen conflict is the longest running air battle in the history of the world.
Right.
And a lot of credit has to go to Air Force pilots for that. So a combination of Army-Air synergy, both at the ground level and in the air, and how they interact and exchange each other's information and support each other's capabilities is what makes you win or lose wars.
And Maruf, tell us a bit about scalability now, because 15 of these helicopters have been inducted, 10 for the Air Force, 5 for the Army, like you rightly mentioned. The sky is the limit as far as indigenous production is concerned, but how do you see our defense forces now scaling this up to a certain level where the reliance on foreign technology as well as foreign aircraft as well as helicopters is minimized significantly over a period of time?
Good question, Siddharth. Right now, without getting too exuberant and jingoistic, let's remember that about 50% of its capabilities are made in India and 50% come from outside. Over a period of time, it will be nice if about 80-90% are made in India. But remember that most military platforms are not 100% made by one OEM, that is original equipment manufacturer. Platforms do have a mix of other equipment. For instance, the Sukhoi is called Sukhoi 30 MKI. What does that mean? It means manufactured, configured for India, which means the Sukhoi has radar systems of another country, missile systems of another country, and various other minor technologies of other countries. By and large, it is a Russian variant fighter aircraft, and a damn good one, and the mainstay of the Indian Air Force. I think we've got about 270 of them or so. Now, as far as scalability is, eventually, not just this, but the aim is to build everything in India, but not just in HAL. It would be a good idea if more and more of this is given to the private sector in India, which is desperately waiting in the wings to get more and more involved in manufacturing military equipment. A classic example is the DRDO combined with Bharat Forge, the ATAGS gun. It can fire more than any artillery gun in the world. Most artillery guns, including the ones the West has been talking about, or Russians are talking about in Ukraine, fires a range of about 40 kilometers. Those are the medium and long range artillery. The ATAGS fires 48 kilometers under most weather conditions, and that's fantastic. So get the private sector involved, you will get things done quickly, and you will do away with nepotism and the bureaucracy that we often blame for the slow movement of our production lines, because everything is vested and every deal is given to government-owned DPSUs.
When exactly was the need, thought of? What is being said as far as these LCH is concerned, it's about to take off right now. We are getting those pictures live from the Air Force Station. And the sortie that includes Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh. He's on board the LCH, but also important to note what has been also mentioned by Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh Maruf was that it was during the Kargil war that the need was first felt for such a homegrown lightweight assault helicopter. It has nonetheless taken a lot of time to actually see it happening today when it comes to the LCH's induction.
Well, any new platform that you create for defense purposes takes 15 to 20 years. And I'll tell you why. Because first, realization has to dawn on the establishment in South Block that, wow, we need this. Then there's much debate that should we quickly buy it off the shelf or should we make our own? That whole exercise takes a few years. You know how government organizations work. After that, the job is entrusted, like in this case, Hindustan Aeronautics is entrusted with the job, that go ahead and build it. Then the test and trials. Please remember that India has a vast variety of terrains and temperature conditions. Out of the 18 climatic regions in the world, India has 16. So to test this equipment to be able to operate not just itself but all its systems in this kind of weather conditions is important.
Maru, we are just dipping into the live commentary that is coming in. Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh on the sortie on the LCH that is currently taking place. We'll just dip into the live commentary.
Alright, so we keep up with these live images coming in from the Air Force Station Jodhpur, and what a momentous occasion, really a historical day in India's history, and especially for the armed forces, for the Indian Air Force. Now, the kind of features that have been spoken of by our defense experts really speak volumes about what this new powerhouse is all about. The new LCH helicopters, remember, are capable of aerial warfare. They will assist the Indian Air Force in dealing with slow-moving aircrafts, with drones and armored tankers during conflicts as well. And of course, much has been spoken of how it has been tested as well in the most difficult of terrains. So its features continue to remain the highlight this afternoon as we talk about this induction, the mega induction of the light combat aircraft that's been hogging the limelight, as many air forces around the world have been trying to turn to these kind of efficient and maneuverable jets. The LCH has been, remember, created to boost Indian Air Force's combat prowess. Multi-role platform of the LCH capable of firing a range of missiles and other weapons, and that's what makes it so very fascinating. It has been designed mostly for deployment in high altitude regions, but has been tested in several other regions and terrains as well, and that's what our experts have been pointing out as well. But has similarities with the advanced light helicopter Dhruv as well, and Maruf had just spoken of the similarities that exist between the two. A number of stealth features, armored protection systems, night attack capability, and crash-worthy landing gear for better survivability. And those are the live images that continue to come in from the Air Force Station in Jodhpur. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh currently taking a sortie in the LCH.
So, Maharoof, is it also first and rather unusual when we look at Raksha Mantri himself taking that kind of a first-hand experience? Of course, Raksha Mantri has also taken before. That was his second fighter jet sortie that had taken place. He also flew on the indigenously developed LCA Tejas also. That happened in Bengaluru. And now on the LCH that is currently taking place.
From what I know, that this is the first official flight of the LCH after it has just been inducted into the Air Force and launched. So obviously the first flight was taken up by the Raksha Mantri, but as you yourself brought out, not just Shri Rajnath Singh ji, but his predecessor Nirmala Sitharaman had also taken various sorties of aircrafts, helicopters of the IAF. The VIP travel often to operational areas only happens in IAF helicopters. The Army, though it is being inducted into the Army simultaneously for a slightly different set of operational roles, I would say that the Air Force, being the more experienced force, would probably be doing the flying of the VVIPs. And every time Rajnath Singh ji or Prime Minister have gone to places like the Siachen Glacier or Ladakh ever since 2020, or even to earlier front lines around Kargil and the LOC, they would be flying in military helicopters, because commercial or fighter jets can't do the same job that helicopters can, and helicopters can't do the same job that these fighter jets can. The biggest advantage of the helicopters is that they're pretty fast moving. They have inbuilt protection to themselves. They have a multiple array of weapons platforms and are capable of targeting a multiple type of targets on the front line, from bunkers and sangars to individual infantry soldiers, manning rocket launchers, and even artillery systems placed behind those high heights in the mountains, because artillery doesn't need to be in the front line. Artillery is close to the front line, but a little behind, but it can fire its shells from atop the mountain heights to get to your locations on this side. That was Pakistan's intention of dominating those Kargil heights, to be able to block our traffic along the national highway that connects Leh to Srinagar and southwards. So helicopters can go up and target them. In the plains, helicopters can effectively use the tree line to go above the tree line and then target tank formations moving towards you, then go and hide behind the trees and move sideways and re-emerge somewhere else. So studies have shown that about 15 odd tanks or more can be knocked off by attack helicopters. Not by this particular one, because I don't think any studies have been done. This is a unique light combat helicopter of its own variety. But the earlier ones that we have, EH-64 Apache, which are essentially the anti-tank platform for negotiating tank units when they come towards you in battle. And they are known to be extremely lethal tank killers. And the tankmen know that, and they're constantly watching out for any signs of them in the skyline. They have a standoff distance, which means they can be standing off at a distance of 3 to 4 kilometers and then hit a target which cannot engage them from the same height, because tanks and infantry combat vehicles don't have missiles which go beyond the range of about 3.5 kilometers. So these aircrafts are able, or these helicopters are able to stay away and still engage their target. So they're really good stuff. I mean, you can go on and on about their capability, but more importantly, I think we need to feel good about the fact that our indigenous manufacturing base is picking up, and this government must be given credit for pushing on this area very fast and laying out the red lines for the armed forces, that you cannot continue to keep buying from outside just because it is easy and convenient, and also, I dare say, it is attractive to a lot of people to make purchases outside. But here, if you make them here and you push it, you involve the private sector, you give these people the necessary support and funding, and you give them a captive market, which is ensure that the armed forces will buy it. There's no problem. You can keep making them in large amounts. See, we make world-class missiles. Why can't we make world-class helicopters and aircraft? It's the same story. You have to encourage it. You have to give it a market. You have to give it funding, and there has to be national support for it. China, from a large defense importer 10 years ago or so, is today amongst the world's top defense exporters. So there's no reason why in 5-10 years we cannot be amongst the top countries exporting military platforms like this.
Absolutely, and we do see that sense really growing within the countrymen as far as Atmanirbharta in the defense sector is also concerned. I want to quickly bring in Group Captain Anupam Banerjee into the conversation. Now, there's a long list to LCH's capabilities, sir. We've been talking about its agility, maneuverability, extended range, high altitude performance, all-weather combat capability as well, which only goes on to explain that the LCH, to begin with, has our armed forces covered well.
Yes, but before I say anything, I want to bring you, I want to take you back to the Kargil conflict, which I was, fortunate to take part in. And we badly missed the capability of our attack helicopters that we had on those days to operate at high altitude. Because of its limitation, the Mi series helicopters could not be used in Kargil conflict. And you must be remembering that we lost one helicopter on the third day of the Kargil conflict, with some precious lives lost, because the Mi-17 helicopter, which the Air Force did not have a choice but to put into action, because the attack helicopters who are ideally suited to take that kind of an operation could not operate at those altitudes. Now, the best part of light combat helicopter, the genesis of its, it started immediately after Kargil conflict, because the need for a helicopter which can operate. And remember, Indian armed forces, I will say both Air Force and Army, are the air forces which operate at the highest altitude in the world. No other air force has to operate at such high altitude. The fact that the LCH can fly up to, in fact, it is one of the aircraft which can fly highest in its category. And this is something which is, it's a great thing. Especially, I remember those days, we so terribly missed the fact that our attack helicopters could not reach the height on those attacks to the Tiger Hill and Tololings. So if tomorrow there is a conflict at such high altitude, then the LCH will be the punching power. So this is something, because most of our flashpoints are on high altitude, whether it is on the northern border or in our western border. We have one of the highest area of operations anywhere in the world. So LCH's high altitude capability is going to be the turner. And as far as the indigenous content and the capability is concerned, you have seen that LCH has already achieved almost 45 to 50% of the content. And with times to come, this will increase, because many of its payloads will be slowly be indigenized or made in India, with some of the technology transfer happening. So this is a journey. But most important part is that LCH is going to be a very, very important platform in the high altitude warfare that the Indian armed forces are going to wage. And remember, like what Mr. Maruf said, that it is like a flying tank, and it is designed to be protected. It is not a troop carrying helicopter. So when you convert a helicopter like ALH or Mi-17, it is basically you are adapting it to give it an offensive role. But this particular helicopter is designed for an offensive role. It is made to, it is like a fighter helicopter. So this is something which Indian Armed Forces badly needed. It is designed for an Indian condition. It is designed to cater for Indian Armed Forces need. And I am only hopeful that Indian Air Force and Indian Army is going to make its full utilization, and the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited is going to continuously improve it. And in days to come, this platform will be one of the best in the world. That's my hope.
Absolutely, sir, because this is the Atmanirbharta, Maharu, that is bound to be a game changer, because as you were talking about, this has taken over 2 decades. I mean, of course, the first need that actually thought was during Kargil War 1999, today being the year 2002, and the initial operation clearance also came only in 2017 for the Indian Air Force's variant and 2019 for the Army variant. And this was in this year's March that the CCS, the Cabinet Committee on Security, approved the procurement of at least 15 of these LCH for the limited series production, 10 for the Indian Air Force and 5 for the Indian Army, Maharuf.
You see, I was explaining to you earlier, then the Raksha Mantri's flight came in, so we had to cut short. You see, India has 16 of the 18 climatic regions of the world. So you have to have all types of military equipment that should function to its best potential in that vast number of terrains and temperature conditions. For example, ammunition in cold weather takes a lower route of flight than ammunition in hot weather. So your calculations, your training has to be based on various weather conditions. The second thing is that our operational conditions, there is often talk about cut down the size of the military and put technology everywhere to guard our borders. It's not easy, because the borders are vast and we don't have friends in our neighborhood. We have enemies, 2 large enemies on both sides. And I don't hesitate to call them enemies, because they've done nothing that we can call friendly over the last several years. Thirdly, we have helicopters like this, which would allow, and it's an important point, hasn't been made as yet, that would allow women fighter pilots to also be a useful element of our strike forces. Please remember that women are now given a combat role by our Air Force, and it is for such kind of equipment they can play a dramatic role in changing the course of battle. The other thing is that this helicopter that has been manufactured has built-in potential to keep being functional and upgraded for 3 to 4 decades from now, keeping in mind the possible trends that battlefields of the future might throw up. So therefore, just to say that, as Group Captain Banerjee rightly brought out, that what you made today is end of story. No, it is a story which is in the works. There will be more and more changes that will happen based on operational requirements, based on the behavior of your adversaries, based on a decision by the country how to use them in various situations. Most effectively, situations in the mountains. Earlier we just had Kargil, which was a mountain conflict. Before that we had Siachen. But in Siachen, as most of us know, there hasn't been any serious firing for the last so many years. But there's a tense ceasefire in Kargil and Siachen. It could get activated. But there is now the Chinese on the LAC. There is a limitation this helicopter has. It cannot normally be expected to fly above 16,500 feet. To get to the Siachen front, you have to be able to go over 18,500 feet. That's the Khardungla Pass. You have to cross that to enter the Siachen theater. So there, I don't know, I'm not a trained pilot, nor do I have much experience of this, but I think the Air Force will have to come up and the Army will have to come up with innovations on how they plan to use this on the Siachen front. It is going to be an important asset there, and the Chetak and the Cheetah lot that we have are really at the end of their life. Most of them should have been phased off, just like the MiG-21s, but they're still there for want of suitable alternatives. Eventually we'll get about 140 of these helicopters, and I think the figures will be divided suitably between the Army and the Air Force. They both have separate roles to play, and they have separate operational priorities and conditions. Remember, they were inducted into the Army, seen to be cleared for induction as early as June this year. The clearances take a long time to come, because that is the hard part for any manufacturer. And though it is a DPSU, Hindustan Aeronautics, that has made it, it still needs the clearances of the end user, that is the Air Force and the Army. That's a very detailed process, and that's why induction of weapons platforms takes very, very long. There are many conditions that have to be met, and very objectively, these are tried and tested in various conditions before a full go-ahead is given, because once you give a go-ahead, it is not good form to pull out of that agreement, though we have unfortunately done it once or twice, particularly in the case of the Eurocopter, which led eventually to the Augusta scandal.
Absolutely. Maruf, now, the induction of the LCH certainly marks the culmination of a process that, like all of us have been pointing out, began at the end of the 1999 Kargil conflict. But, if we talk about how this indigenously built helicopter can carry a sufficient weapon load, how it can operate at high altitudes of the Himalayas, does it not fulfill all of these requirements that were felt immediately after the 1999 conflict? Because, for example, in this very case, the Apache attack helicopters, they're heavier in size. So in that sense, like you pointed out, we need to go across to perhaps some of the experts in the aviation sector from the Indian Armed Forces to give us a better understanding of whether or not this is the only helicopter, at least access to the only helicopter that India has at the moment that can operate at that kind of an height. Siachen, for example, the world's highest battlefield.
Well, it can fulfill, I would not say all, but it can fulfill most of the operation conditions that were listed out as a shortcoming after Kargil. Please remember, the difference between operating in Kargil and Leh Ladakh versus Siachen is, to gain access to the Siachen theater, you have to go over a very high mountain range to enter the Siachen glacier area. That height of the mountain range is almost 19,000 feet. That's why we talk of the Khardungla Pass. Whereas Kargil has ranges where some of the posts are as high as Siachen, but to access them from the town of Kargil or the air bases around there, or in Dras, or in Ladakh, or in Leh, you don't have to go over a high range to access the battlefield. You can just get there and then raise yourself to a particular height and do what is necessary to confront another ingress. I don't think Pakistan will ever attempt that. It was Musharraf who stupidly did that, and add to that was the generosity of Mr. Vajpayee, who honored him as head of state for having inflicted that conflict on us and losses of life to our soldiers. I don't think the soldiers and their families will ever forgive them. But going to Leh Ladakh, again, you can get straight to the battlefield without going over very high heights to at least be in the general area of the LAC. So that's the difference between Siachen and Kargil oblique LAC. Beyond that, this helicopter, they must have examined all the options and then produced this, because remember, any further height the helicopter is expected to take, it will have to compromise on its payload. Payload means the amount of weapons it can carry, amount of fuel it can carry, and amount of personnel it can carry. So there is a challenge that you have to build something, and they would have come on to the design configuration after much debate with the services and come on to this platform, which would have been said, okay, this is the minimum we are willing to accept. And that's why this has been created. So no weapon platform in the world, and I say this with a fair degree of responsibility, no weapon platform in the world can be 100% suitable for all configurations of the battlefield, particularly in the context of India.
Right, so the sortie is over. The Raksha Mantri has just landed as this sortie has taken place, as Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh got a first-hand experience on board the LCH after the official induction there, and just adding more information there for our viewers joining in and gaining more interest and information regarding what this LCH is all about, because the limited series production of LCH formally inaugurated in August 2017 with the maiden ground run of the Indian Army LCH that was done in November 2021. And out of the total LCH, 15 contracted, 5 will go to the Indian Army, and to balance out 10 to the Indian Air Force. The first LCH that was handed over to the Indian Army on the 29th of September 2022, and the raising of the first LCH that has taken place as per the delivery schedule, with 4 more LCH that will be handed over to the Indian Army by October 2022, and the first one will be operationalized in the Eastern Theatre in the first week of November 2022 itself. So Maruf, just adding to that, because even with the HAL officials saying that the flight testing was carried out at various altitudes, I mean from sea level to Siachen range, as you've been helping us understand that, that means extreme cold weather, extreme hot weather conditions as well in desert regions. So it's covering all of the aspect that is needed in both sides of the borders.
Absolutely. It is covering our operational requirements on multiple fronts. And I don't think this is a matter of debate anymore, that can it or can't it. It is shown, it has been tested, and before it was formally inducted, I'm pretty certain that both the services would have given it a certificate of fit to fly for operational purposes. The government's decision to induct it in the eastern sector is probably based on the government's decision, not this government's decision. This happened long ago, before the BJP government came into power in 2014. This happened sometime, I think, in 2010, 2012. That the government of the day of the UPA decided that India must have a strike corps in the eastern sector. A strike corps is a large body of troops which is capable of surprise and shock and inflicting a strike on the enemy positions deep inside enemy territory, to have the kind of advantage that you would need on the negotiating table at the end of a conflict. So the strike corps was thought of as a possibility for general area near Sikkim and Bhutan. That is where roughly it is raised in northern Bengal, but it can operate all across the eastern sector, and the eastern sector is really China. And the boundary dispute with China is around the McMahon line. And the McMahon line runs, as we know, from the eastern edges of Bhutan right to the tri-junction of India, Myanmar and China border. At any place there could be an intrusion, and how you can get your advantage vis-a-vis them is you hit them somewhere else, so it catches them at a disadvantage and they decided to pull off. And that's where a platform like this will make all the difference.
Okay, stay on with us, Maruf. Let's quickly go across to Shivani as well, who continues to join us live from outside the Air Force Station in Jodhpur. Rajnath Singh, the Raksha Mantri, just concluded his sortie. Shivani, what can you tell us about the action that's unfolding there?
Kachin, we can see that Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh has just come down from his first sortie in the LCH after its induction at Jodhpur Air Force Station. And Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh very clearly mentioned that India is not now only making in India, but it is making for the world. And LCH, or be it LCA or IAC Vikrant, so all these are a series of these big changes which are enhancing the might of our defense forces. On the LCH, which has been named Prachand, has been now formally inducted into the Indian Air Force at Jodhpur Air Force Station, which happens to be a very strategically important Air Force station. It is close to the Pakistan border. And if we talk about the numbers, today 4 LCH have been inducted into the Indian Air Force, and very soon these numbers will be going up, because altogether for Indian Army and as well as for Indian Air Force, around 160 LCH will be manufactured by HAL in India, and every time the versions are upgraded, the indigenous content goes high. And we see the cockpit of this particular aircraft is totally of glass. It is so sleek, it is light in weight, it is 5.8 tons, which happens to be one of the lightest helicopters in this category. If we talk about Apache, it is 10 tons in weight. And if we talk about Mi-35, Mi-25, they are also quite old and aged versions of helicopters on which India was relying till now. But now, after LCH is being inducted, the firepower of Indian Defence Forces has increased, because if we talk about the integration of missile systems, the rocket launchers, it is commendable on LCH, which is called Prachand. It has 70 rocket launchers on the wings, 12 each on each wing, and 20 gun on the nose, which can rotate 110 degrees. Apart from that, we have Mistral missile, which can be integrated to LCH, and ATGM also. So in terms of maneuverability, in terms of survivability, in terms of design, it is a perfect fit for Indian terrain, Indian temperatures, Indian requirements, because it has successfully completed its trials in Ladakh along the LAC, and also in Rajasthan, where the temperatures are extremely high. And the first unit, in fact, has been raised in Rajasthan, Jodhpur, which happens to be a very sensitive zone. And the LCH is not only increasing the might of Indian Air Force, but also has been included in the Indian Army, and the numbers will be going high subsequently. So we see that the strength of India is becoming more and more with the Atmanirbharta, and India's mantra is to not only make in India, but make for the world too.
Absolutely. With those pictures that are coming in, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh will be leaving soon, but he's also in a way talked about his experience, what he has experience on board the LCH right after its induction there, as the photo op ceremony that is now over, the official induction that has taken place. And with these features, as Shivani has been pointing out, LCH has the finest capabilities of combat roles when it comes to destruction of the enemy, air defense, there are counter-insurgency warfare, combat search and rescue, anti-tank and counter-surface force operations as well. So coming back to you, Maruf, because when it comes to phasing out, all right, when it comes to phasing out already, when it comes to the Air Force that has been currently operating,
well, you know,
yes, so the Russian origin Mi-17s and the other versions as well. I mean, that is the maximum takeoff weight of 13 tons. So how do you look at a time when it comes to phasing out the old and the incoming of the new?
No, you know, phasing out is a very complicated process, can't be explained on television in detail, but broad things to understand is, just because you have a new set of equipment doesn't mean you do away with whatever has served you well and loyally all these years. Secondly, what they have given right now is only 8 of these. So let's not go over the top thinking this is going to change the order of battle or change the whole situation on the ground. Eventually, they are hoping to give us 15, but in the long run, they are meant to be about 140. Now, that's going to take years and years because it doesn't happen overnight. The Air Force, in particular, is very, very tight as far as its capability to dispense aircrafts are concerned of hepters, because they are short of the requirements of the IAF, both in terms of the squadron numbers and in terms of aircrafts and fighters. So therefore, it's going to take a long while. Secondly, when you look at military equipment, and those of us who have some understanding of that will tell you that no one equipment serves all purposes. You have to have, even in helicopters, you have to have a number of roles that helicopters play, from being combat helicopters, from being attack helicopters, to being operational.
Rajnath Singh is speaking right now. Maruf, just crossing.
वैसे आज लाइट कम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर की हमारी फ्लाइंग बहुत ही स्मूथ थी, बहुत ही कंफर्टेबल थी। और लाइट कम्बैट हेलीक्राफ्ट ये इंडिजिनस हेलीकॉप्टर है और यह कारगिल से लेकर कन्याकुमारी तक किसी भी टेरेन में फ्लाई कर सकता है, कहीं भी फ्लाई कर सकता है, रात को भी फ्लाई कर सकता है, दिन में भी फ्लाई कर सकता है, वर्षा हो रही हो तब भी यह फ्लाई कर सकता है। और साथ ही साथ अपने टारगेट को अटैक करने की भी क्षमता इस लाइट कम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर में है। यह दुनिया के जितने भी इस प्रकार के हेलीकॉप्टर्स हैं उनमें एक बेहतरीन यह लाइट कम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर है। जैसा हमारे प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी का संकल्प था कि यहाँ पर इंडिजिनस सारे प्लेटफार्म्स, वेपन्स और यह हेलीकॉप्टर्स और प्लेन्स बनने चाहिए, तो उनके इसी मंशा के अनुरूप, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री की मंशा के अनुरूप ही यह लाइट कम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर जो कि पूरी तरह से इंडिजिनस है वह बना है। इसमें मिसाइल के द्वारा ही मार सकता है, अन्य भी बहुत सारे दूसरे इक्विपमेंट्स हैं जिनके द्वारा भी यह अटैक कर सकता है। लेकिन अटैक उसी पर करेगा जो कि भारत का दुश्मन होगा।
सर, आपकी पहली सॉर्टी कैसी रही, कैसा अनुभव?
बहुत ही कंफर्टेबल थी, बहुत ही स्मूथ थी। और हमारे साथ मिस्टर दीपक बिश्नोई ये उसमें पायलट थे जिन्होंने मुझे फ्लाई किया। ही वॉज द फ्लाइंग ऑफिसर।
सर, तो अब हम मेक फॉर द वर्ल्ड कर रहे हैं, मेक फॉर वर्ल्ड कर रहे हैं हम लोग, मेक इन इंडिया के साथ साथ
मेक इन इंडिया, मेक फॉर द वर्ल्ड।
सर, आपने इससे पहले हेलीकॉप्टर में सॉर्टी ली है, आपको लगता है कि जो विदेशी अपाचे है या तमाम हेलीकॉप्टर से उनको बीट कर सकता है ये हेलीकॉप्टर?
नहीं, अपने बहुत ही बेहतरीन हेलीकॉप्टर है। मैं समझता हूं कि एक हेलीकॉप्टर की दूसरे हेलीकॉप्टर से तुलना करने की भी कोई बहुत ज़रूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि इतना मैंने कहा यह दिन में भी फ्लाई कर सकता है, रात को भी फ्लाई कर सकता है, किसी मौसम में फ्लाई कर सकता है, किसी एल्टीट्यूड पर फ्लाई कर सकता है, और साथ ही अपने टारगेट को अटैक भी कर सकता है।
सर, भारतीय सेना को भी दरकार है
अटैक हेलीकॉप्टर।
सर, भारतीय सेना को भी चाहिए ये हेलीकॉप्टर।
भारतीय सेना भी तो इसका उपयोग करेगी।
सर, आपने तेजस में भी फ्लाई किया, LCH, आपको लगता है कि रक्षा मंत्री के फ्लाई करने से दुनिया को भरोसा होगा भारत के प्रोडक्ट से?
नहीं, दुनिया में भारत के प्रति भरोसा बढ़ता जा रहा है, और आप सब जानते हैं कि हर मामले में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय जगत में भारत की प्रतिष्ठा बड़ी तेजी के साथ बढ़ी है। और मैं तो कह सकता हूं कि प्रचंड, मैं समझता हूं प्रचंड इस शब्द को डिफाइन करने की जरूरत नहीं है। यह स्वयं में ही प्रचंड जो संदेश देना चाहिए अपने दुश्मन को, वह संदेश देने में यह पर्याप्त है।
सर, आत्मनिर्भर भारत की सबसे बड़ी तस्वीर है सर, लद्दाख से लेकर राजस्थान तक।
यह हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो संकल्प था आत्मनिर्भर भारत का, उसी दिशा में एक बहुत बड़ा कदम है। और इसके लिए मैं हिंदुस्तान एरोनॉटिक्स लिमिटेड को भी अपनी तरफ से बधाई देना चाहता हूं कि जिन्होंने कि इस लाइट कम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर को तैयार किया है। सारे इंजीनियर, सारे जितने भी पर्सनल्स हैं हमारे HL के, सभी बधाई के पात्र हैं। और मैं अपने एयर चीफ मार्शल मिस्टर VK चौधरी, हमारे चीफ ऑफ डिफेंस स्टाफ जनरल अनिल चौहान सहित सारे अपने जितने फोर्सेस के हमारे जितने भी ऑफिसर्स पर्सनल्स हैं, उनको भी इस अवसर पर मैं अपनी तरफ से हार्दिक बधाई देता हूँ।
धन्यवाद। बात करने के लिए बहुत बहुत। तो रक्षा मंत्री राजनाथ सिंह का साफ
All right, we have breaking news coming in, and this is a reaction coming in from the Congress party. The Congress once again resorting to playing politics over this big particular project being inducted to the Indian Armed Forces. We have a tweet coming in from Dr. Shakeel Ahmed, who is the Indian National Congress president from the state of Bihar, who, while talking about the induction of the light combat aircraft, says, and I quote, ये वही हिंदुस्तान एरोनॉटिक्स है जिसे रफाल सौदे से हटाकर अंबानी जी के 12 दिन पुरानी कंपनी को दिया गया था. So that's the tweet that has come in from a Congress leader. Now remember, very recently the top court also interestingly had said that, you know, one can't keep going into the Rafale issue over and over again, because the Congress, remember, earlier had claimed that the earlier deal was scrapped and a new one signed just to provide Anil Ambani the opportunity of an offset deal, and that's something that is perhaps indirectly being reiterated by yet another Congress leader, but unfortunately on this day.
And absolutely, when it comes to Rafale and the Congress controversy is known to one and all, because here, Dr. Shakeel Ahmed, Rishabh, if you can throw more light on that, because politics has already started. I mean, the induction has just happened now, and he's already raising questions.
So what we can see, this has become the modus operandi of Congress leaders. Whatever the government of India inducts or inaugurates, the Congress leader come forward and say that, oh, this happened in UPA era itself. You know, we have seen the same thing when even the cheetah was brought back. Jairam Ramesh tweeting that how in 2011 he was the one who started the whole process, and now Shakeel Ahmed saying that the whole process began in 2006 and by 2010 it was in air doing the test sorties. So, you know, the war of words, the politics, and the race to take credit is something that opposition has been using as modus operandi for anything that the government of the day is doing, be it in defense sector or any sector of the country.
Absolutely. Rishabh, now this essentially points out, and the Congress is trying to hint at that very controversy. Now remember what it had spoken of when finally the NDA had decided to enter into a government-to-government deal with the Dassault Aviation. That's when the Congress had said and rather raised questions on why is it that the deal with the HAL was cut off. And because this is an HAL project, that's the question that the Congress is now trying to ask the government.
See, point is when the government of the day works, and the defense ministry has been very clear that we work on one project at a time. If we see in a long-term project, Dassault was something that India needed urgently, and hence Rafale flights were the jets were taken from the Dassault after the government-to-government between India and France, the deal that took place. Now, HAL has made it. We need to understand this is happening when last year, Defense Ministry decided that 80% of its procurement will happen from the Indian companies, and this is one of the first pioneer procurement that is happening, which is 100% made in India, made by Hindustan Aeronautical
All right, so that's a war of credits that's taking place. Dr. Shakeel Ahmed of the Congress party raising questions, saying that it was in 2006 that had begun, especially when it comes to the first flight of the Hindustan Aeronauticals द्वारा बनाए गए हल्के लड़ाकू हेलीकॉप्टर ने आज हमारी वायु सेना में शामिल किया गया है. So in a way, talking about as far as even when it comes to the Indian Air Force's the LCH that did not fructify during the UPA regime, they are taking on the current dispensation on the official induction of the LCH that has taken place today. For the moment, Rishabh, thank you very much for joining in. We'll take a look at that video once again that has been released on part of the Indian Air Force.
news update coming in from Maharashtra. A video war is broken out ahead of the Dussehra rally there. Uddhav camp has released another teaser for the rally saying we never backstab anyone, but if anyone backstabs us, we hack them. Now, to give you a quick backgrounder, viewers, remember the Shinde-led faction has also sought permission, had in fact sought permission to hold the rally, the Dussehra rally, at the same venue where the Uddhav faction wanted to hold a rally and had been opposing Uddhav Thackeray group's petition in the High Court. So the matter had reached the court, but the war continues in terms of this video that has now been put out by the Uddhav camp. Arunil is joining us with more details. Yes, Arunil.
4 p.m. today, a meeting of senior Shiv Sena leaders has been called in at the Sena Bhavan, wherein how to get more crowds at the Shivaji Park will be the main agenda of this meeting. Now, I spoke to Arvind Sawant as well, the senior Shiv Sena leader. Both the factions of the Shiv Sena feel wherever more crowd will be gathered, that will be the real Shiv Sena. So a tough competition, intense competition has broken out between both the factions. As you rightly pointed out, a teaser war has also been seen. Uddhav Thackeray camp releasing a teaser wherein they have highlighted the fact that we don't backstab anyone, but if somebody backstabs us, then we will hack that particular person. That has been highlighted by the Uddhav Thackeray camp, whereas the CM Eknath Shinde camp has also released a trailer at the same time only, basically showing late Balasaheb Thackeray's video in which he's been heard saying that we will not only burn this Ravan of the Congress party, but we will bury this Ravan of the Congress party as well. The CM Shinde camp has been taking out an attack on the Uddhav Thackeray camp, basically saying that we are the true followers of Balasaheb Thackeray's Hindutva ideology, and Uddhav Thackeray basically backstabbed his own father by joining hands with the Congress and the NCP, which were the real enemies of late Balasaheb Thackeray.
Right, Arunil, you mentioned that you spoke with Arvind Sawant over the same because Uddhav camp has been taking on the Shinde camp, saying that the evil plan will not succeed. Let's listen into that reaction.
पर मैं बहस नहीं करूंगा।
आप ये बोल रहे हो कि दूसरा कैंप रावण का कैंप है? फिर
हो सकता है, वही तो मैं अपने आप को उदाहरण दे दिया मैंने आपको कि रावण के साथ भी ये दशहरा है ना भैया, तो उसके लिए मैंने कहा उसमें रावण का वहाँ दहन होता है। आप वो भी देख रहे हो तो बंगाली लोग वहाँ दशहरा रैली बनाते उत्सव मनाते हैं। अब हमारे उत्तर भारतीय भाई दशहरा की यहाँ मनाते हैं। नवरात्रि चलती है। दुर्गा का मतलब क्या है? दुर्गा क्या कहती है? जय देवी महिषासुर मर्दिनी। असुर है ना, असुर ये नहीं कि सामने राक्षसी दिखना चाहिए, राक्षसी प्रवृत्ति होती है, इसलिए मैंने अपवित्र कहा। तो अपवित्र लोगों की जो मन में कामना है वो ये माता पूरी नहीं करने देगी।
The BJP too has been responding to the same. Remember, the face-off is only escalating and the BJP has slammed the Uddhav camp, saying that the NCP and the Congress have now been asked to get their people to fill up the ground and has slammed Uddhav's camp for sacrificing Bal Thakeray's legacy, isn't it?
दशहरे के शिवाजी पार्क के रैली में भीड़ इकट्ठी हो, मैदान भरा हुआ दिखे, इस कारण अब राष्ट्रवादी और कांग्रेस के नेताओं से मदद मांगी जा रही है। इनका वसूली कार्यक्रम और स्वर्गीय बालासाहब ठाकरे जी के विचारों को त्याग देना, इस कारण व्यथित होकर के जिनके पास जनाधार था वो सारे के सारे शिंदे जी के साथ चले गए। अब शिवाजी पार्क का मैदान तो भरना है, तो वे राष्ट्रवादी कांग्रेस के नेताओं से भीड़ इकट्ठा करने के लिए मदद मांग रहे हैं।
So Arunil, that is one of the allegations that has been made by the BJP. But tell us what would have happened if Eknath Shinde would have intervened as the Chief Minister to get their rally to be held at the iconic Shivaji Park?
Well, whether he had that powers to do that, because the order had come in from the Honorable Court. The Bombay High Court has allowed Uddhav Thackeray camp to hold that prestigious rally at the iconic Shivaji Park. Yes, there are charges that have been traded between the two different factions. Now, the BJP has been alleging that Uddhav Thackeray has asked for help from his alliance partners, that is the Congress and the NCP, to get their party workers from different parts of Maharashtra so that the Shivaji Park ground looks full, just the way it used to look when Babasaheb Thackeray used to speak over there. And the same kind of charge has come in from the Uddhav Thackre's Shiv Sena as well. They have been saying that the BJP will be pouring their own party workers, will be asking their party workers to gather at the BKC ground so that it looks like CM Shinde has more support. So on the ground also it is a perception battle that has been developing, and both the camps are trying to show that we have more support with us, so that the Shiv Senics who are there on the borderline, who have not yet decided, they are hoping that they will jump to their side. So this Dashera Midava is going to be very crucial for both the factions of the Shiv Sena.
All right, the sense one seems to get from what Eknath Shinde, the Chief Minister, has been saying is, of course, Arunil, that had he intervened as a Chief Minister in the state and had he wanted to hold the rally at Shivaji Park, he would have been able to do so, but just out of respect for the High Court's order, he's refraining from doing so. And he's once again, of course, spoken of Bal Thackre's legacy amongst all of this and how he's not going to at any cost compromise on that. So let's listen into what he had to say once again.
मैदान कौन सा है, इसके बजाय उस मैदान से हमारे बाला साहेब ठाकरे जी, हिंदू हृदय सम्राट, इनकी भूमिका हम लोग आगे ले जा रहे हैं, उनके विचारधारा को आगे लेके जा रहे हैं. और इस राज्य में क्या हुआ है इससे पहले 2-2.5 साल पहले पूरी जनता जानती है, इसलिए मुझे इसमें कोई बात कहनी नहीं. लोग काफ़ी समझदार है, लोग जैसे भारी समर्थन दे रहे राज्य में से, ये सभी जगह से, और उन्हें पता है कि ये राज्य जो है, ये सरकार जो बनी हुई है, आम लोगों की सरकार है.
Well, that's the legacy war that continues, will culminate when it comes to the Dussehra rally that will be taking place in the state of Maharashtra. Arunil, thank you very much for the moment. We'll be back after a short break.
In a the most pressing issue, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
आपको सब फिल्म स्टार ही चाहिए मथुरा में.
नहीं हेममान
कन्हैया जी ने भक्त चाहिए ही कल राखी सावंत का ऑल्सो बिकम. बनने नहीं देंगे. आप दिमाग में सबको ऐसा डाल के रखेंगे फिल्म स्टार ही बनेगा. आपको सब फिल्म स्टार ही चाहिए मथुरा में.
नहीं हेममान
कन्हैया जी ने भक्त चाहिए ही कल राखी सावंत का ऑल्सो बिकम. बहुत अच्छी बात है.
आपका क्या विचार है इस बार? आप
मेरा विचार क्या मैं बताऊं, मेरा विचार भगवान के ऊपर है. लॉर्ड कृष्णा विल डू इट.
मैं तो देश की सेवा के लिए ही पैदा हुई हूँ और मैं देश की सेवा करना चाहती हूँ. और क्यों नहीं, हमारे मोदी साहब, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी चाय बनाते बनाते प्रधानमंत्री जी पीएम बन सकते हैं, तो मैं बॉलीवुड में काम करते करते सीएम क्यों नहीं बन सकती हूँ. डेफिनेटली मैं बनूंगी. आप सबका आशीर्वाद चाहिए. तो 2024 में अब आप मुझे चुनाव लड़ते हुए देखेंगे किसके अपोजिट, ये सरप्राइज है।
These were the Hawala route transaction that is being set through Dubai.
Back with breaking news coming in. One person was killed and over 20 injured when a helium gas cylinder belonging to a balloon vendor burst in Tamil Nadu's Trichy. The police have access to the CCTV footages as well that have captured the incident and are now on a lookout for the balloon vendor. For more details, Prapanch is joining us live. Yes, Prapanch.
Now, this particular incident happened last night in Tiruchirappalli in near Singarpur area. This is a market area where a balloon vendor was selling balloons using a helium cylinder. Now, initial police investigation revealed that a person was smoking near the helium cylinder and that might have caused the explosion. However, in that explosion, one person died and in fact, nearly 22% are injured and they are getting treatment in various hospitals. One child, in fact, 13-year-old boy, is critically injured. He is also undergoing treatment. Meanwhile, police sources have said that they are in fact in search of the balloon vendor who was selling the balloon. And district administration has categorically stated that they have not allowed helium cylinders for such commercial purposes. And have also said that if they are if they found people using such helium cylinders, action will be taken against them.
Absolutely, because this is said to be a busy market area and you can get the sense from the CCTV footages, Prapanch, that has captured this explosion.
That's right. This particular area is a very busy area. It's a Singarpur area, it's a market area wherein people come for marketing. And now, since it's a festival season, there are a lot of people. They have come for the Navratri shopping, and subsequently, this area is supposed to be a very busy area. And there, usually, we find that several of these street hawkers put up their temporary shops over there, and one of that shop was one of these person was the balloon seller who had taken a cycle, and on the cycle he had kept this helium cylinder and he was selling the balloons over there.
And subsequently, we could see that the person who was smoking, allegedly smoking next to the cylinder,
All right.
that might have caused this particular explosion.
But a big explosion at that, 1 dead, over 20 injured in the blast, and those are the CCTV visuals. Of course, we'll come back to you, Prapanch, as and when we have more details on what the latest investigations have revealed and when the balloon vendors finally caught by the police. Thank you for that. With that, it's time for us to head into a very quick break.
there was a big song and dance about internet being cut. Okay. Now, if you reach a stage where you say an internet cut is more dangerous than the loss of human lives, then what can I say?
India's illegal and unilateral actions of 5th August 2019 to change the internationally recognized disputed status of Jammu and Kashmir and to alter the demographic structure of the occupied territory further undermined the prospects of peace.
There was a big song and dance about internet being cut. Okay. Now, if you reach a stage where you say an internet cut is more dangerous than the loss of human lives, then what can I say? So the fact is, if you look at the whole 370 issue, I mean, it's a fundamental, maybe I should not be looking in your direction. I ask you all to, just a very basic part. What was a temporary provision of the Constitution?
Well, hi there, warm welcome. You're watching Breaking Ground with me, Meghna Rekha. Lots lined up for you in this bulletin. First up, as always, here are the headlines. Major boost to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Indian Air Force inducts the first batch of indigenously developed light combat helicopters. Raksha Mantri lauds the Prachand power. Congress politicizes the LCH. Prachand says that its manufacturer HAL was dropped from the Rafale deal. No end to Garba vigilantism in Madhya Pradesh. 14 non-Hindus have been booked so far for attending Garba festivities. Politicians back this segregation, say nothing wrong with allowing entry only to Hindus. With Bharat Jodo in Karnataka, Rahul Gandhi visits the Sattur Mutt. In fact, there he has also went to St. Philomena's Cathedral and then to a masjid. In fact, Sonia Gandhi also visits Mysuru as Gandhis make a major push in the state ahead of the polls next year. BJP MP Leher Singh stirs a row, writes a letter to Rahul Gandhi and questions if the Bharat Jodo Yatra is backed by Naxals. Terror attack in South Kashmir kills policeman and injures a CRPF Jawan, prompting the forces to further beef up security ahead of the two-day visit of the Union Home Minister Amit Shah beginning today. Well, fight for Bala Sahib's legacy continues. New video war breaks out with Uddhav claiming never to backstab anyone. Shinde claims that he will take Bal Thackeray's legacy forward. BJP slams Uddhav Sena for sacrificing their father's legacy. RSS General Secretary Dattatreya Husawale has red flagged poverty, joblessness and economic inequality. Says that it is India's demon and it is imperative to slay this demon ahead of the Shera. The RJD dares RSS to question BJP's poll promises. 5 dead in a fatal blaze at Bhadohi Durga Puja Pandal. In fact, organizers of the event have been booked and UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath directs officials to ensure compliance with fire safety norms. Well, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, who is in Karnataka on a 2-day visit, has visited the Sri Muruga Rajendra Mutt. This is in Chitradurga today. This is part of the larger Bharat Jodo Abhiyan that he has embarked upon. In fact, he's met and facilitated the Lingayat seers at the religious place prominent for the Lingayat community. Meanwhile, the party president Sonia Gandhi will be reaching Karnataka as well to take part in Rahul's Bharat Jodo Yatra. He has also incidentally reached out to the Christian community as well as he has plans to go to a mosque. Well, this is the big story that we have been tracking for you. Listen in.
It is very clear that in Karnataka, panic button is pressed by the BJP through various agencies, including Airspace. Honor to Karnataka flag. A national leader like Rahul Gandhi's photo appears there. That means the state is honored. It is not an election campaign. It's not meant to be an election campaign.
In fact, let me go across to Deepak. Deepak, a mega push that we've seen, of course, controversies too coming up. We'll discuss that in just a bit. But the mega push by the Congress to reach out to all the different communities. Tell us, today Sonia Gandhi is also going to be bolstering the Bharat Jodo Abhiyan in Karnataka.
Yes, Rahul Gandhi earlier in the day visiting the Suttur Mutt. It's one of the more powerful Lingayat mutts in the state. We should understand that Lingayats, of course, play a big role as far as Karnataka politics is concerned. We've seen him previously while he was in Karnataka for Siddaramaya's birthday event. At that point in time, he of course visited the Muruga Mutt. Now visiting the Suttur Mutt. More importantly, today paying a visit to the Saint Philomena's Cathedral in Mysuru. Apart from that, he also went ahead and visited a masjid as well. More importantly, we should understand that he also then went to the Chamundi temple and visited the temple there as well. We should understand that overall this yatra, of course, there has been a lot of talks that has been doing the rounds about his efforts and about how politically it will benefit the Congress party in the time to come.
Well, in fact, do stay on with us. Let's also tell our viewers, this is the next big breaking news which is coming on of a controversy which has already erupted over this Bharat Jodo Abhiyan. BJP MP Leher Singh has questioned Rahul Gandhi and Congress leaders if the yatra is backed by Naxals. Listening.
These things by Naxalite entering in their domain, it may damage them. So the word of caution to them, because I have some clues that some Naxalite, former Naxalite and their well-wishers and their promoters, they are the part of, they might be part of this yatra, organizing this yatra.
Well, we'll just get you the letter, but what's very significant in this is that BJP MP Leher Singh has accused Rahul Gandhi of the Congress party on the whole of not just taking help and aid of the, allegedly of having taken aid of the Naxals, but also receiving funding from it and helping promote their Bharat Jodo Yatra. This is the allegation coming in from the BJP that Naxals were called into action and they were asked to help promote Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Andolan. But what's important is that Leher Singh has said that he's got certain clues, certain proof as well to furbish in that. One of the questions that he has put in the letter that he's written to Rahul Gandhi, we'll just get that. Did Siddaramaiah fund the Naxals as well? Was Siddaramaiah soft on the Naxals? This during his tenureship as the Congress Chief Minister of Karnataka. Also, if Siddaramaiah acting upon it. The allegation from the BJP is simple, that Naxals have been soft-pedaled, they have been appeased, and not just that, funding from them have also been taken. Let me go across to Deepak. Deepak, we'll just get our letter to which has been written by the BJP MP. But before that, give us a context of how this attack is coming in, because it's not just about Rahul Gandhi and his yatra today, but dates back to Siddaramaiah's regime.
Well, now BJP MP Leher Singh making a charge that he's got information that the Bharat Jodo is being backed by Naxals or Maoists, and this is something that he says that the Congress themselves should look into. He further says that with Mallikarjun Kharge looking to take over the top spot of the Congress party and him being from Karnataka, he does not want this sort of an image to be carried with the Congress party if they are actually involved. The Congress, of course, has hit out over this letter that has been written going on to say that if there is any proof that the BJP has with regard to Maoists or Naxals backing the Bharat Jodo Yatra, they should investigate it, because all the agencies report to them. So we'll really have to see in the days to come whether there will be any sort of more information that will come out of this, because as of now Mr. Leher Singh of course goes on to say that he's got some information about it and he's putting this retail out.
Well, we are waiting for more details. He says that he has any proof of it, but he's not furbished that proof, has he, Deepak, as to what is this Naxal link to Congress and its tenure, and even now the Bharat Jodo Yatra has. Has he given any solid proof about it?
Well, we of course had a word with him, and the only thing that he had to say is that he has some sort of information that has come in with regard to this. He doesn't speak about any more details pertaining to what this information is, and he says it's for the Congress party to look into it internally so that it does not cause an embarrassment to them in the future.
Well, in fact, let me play out for our viewers once again what exactly BJP's MP Leher Singh had to say when he made this parallel between Congress and the Naxal, saying that the two of them are linked.
These things by Naxalite entering in their domain, it may damage them. So the word of caution to them, because I have some clues that some Naxalite, former Naxalite and their well-wishers and their promoters, they are the part of, they might be part of this yatra, organizing this yatra.
Well, let me go across to Aditi. Aditi, I believe you have the letter that Leher Singh has written to Rahul Gandhi as well about the Congress Naxal link. What does it say?
Yes, Meghna, it's day 26 of Congress Bharat Jodo Yatra and BJP has upped its ante. Now the BJP MP Leher Singh has put up 10 questions to Rahul Gandhi and Siddaramaiah. As we go across the letter says, the first question that the BJP MP has asked over here is Rahul Gandhi is that can they confirm that Naxals, Maoists and their sympathizers are not part of Bharat Jodo Yatra's Karnataka leg? Were these people involved in the planning of the Yatra? The second question comes across, can they confirm if some congressmen have helped Naxals to collect large sums of money to build and run media outlet in recent years? Will they agree to a probe into the money sources of these people? He has put up scathing charges against Congress workers. And the third question is, can they confirm if the Sri Siddaramaiah-led government deliberately looked away as Naxals, Maoists exploited the death of a famous journalist to strengthen their operations? The fourth question is, did friends of Sri Siddaramaiah give monetary and logistics help to Naxals to organize memorial functions for the journalist? Fifth question the BJP is asking Rahul Gandhi is, did the Naxals also hijack the recent farmers' agitation against farm laws in Karnataka? The sixth question that BJP is asking is, can Sri Siddaramaiah tell us what his government's policy was towards Naxals? The seventh questions come across. The seventh question is, like Siddaramaiah-led government had a soft corner for PFI, did it also have a soft corner for Naxals? Why did some underground elements come overground during his time? These are big allegations being put up by BJP. The eighth question that the BJP is asking is, recently when action was taken against PFI, Siddaramaiah said there should be action against RSS too. Has he ever sought action against Naxals? The ninth question that BJP is asking to Rahul Gandhi and Siddaramaiah is that recently, why did Siddaramaiah first agree to be a part of Chinese association function which wanted to protest against US involvement in Taiwan and suddenly withdrew it after it became a public issue? Did Siddaramaiah seek action against his friends and party men involved in organizing the function? The last question is the main question that the BJP is seeking from Congress, where they are saying, if everything is above board, will Congress leaders ask for a probe by central agencies into the affairs of Naxals and their sympathizers in Karnataka?
Right, keep tracking the developments on the ground. Aditi, I'll just come back to you. Meanwhile, more breaking news which is coming in. The Congress has hit out at the BJP. In retort, they say that the BJP is rattled by the Bharat Jodo Yatra, which is why they are making these wild allegations. Listen in to Congress's Jairam Ramesh.
भारत जोड़ो यात्रा की लहर से बीजेपी घबराई हुई है। ये बिल्कुल बोगस बकवास सवाल हैं और ये सिर्फ इसलिए उठाए गए हैं इस मौके में कि भारत जोड़ो यात्रा पर एक कुछ ना कुछ फेंकते रहेंगे रोज। कर्नाटक में लोग पीड़ित हुए हैं और बदलाव चाहते हैं, परिवर्तन चाहते हैं।
Well, let me go across to Deepak. Deepak, very interesting. Bogus और बकवास charges है. Congress trashing all the charges of Naxal links there.
Yes, and like I mentioned, even Mr. Veerappa Moily here as well, going on to say that if there is any truth to it, the BJP, which of course has agencies at their disposal, he says should investigate this matter and come out with any sort of proof and not make just allegations and shooting in the dark. We'll really have to see whether the MP or the BJP really will come out with more details pertaining to this Naxal link that they're alleging. They're saying for the Congress to in fact take steps on their own, and he's saying that he's saying this as a precautionary measure for in the interest of the Congress party, which of course is trying to do this yatra. So it remains to be seen how things pan out in the next couple of days with whether the BJP will pull out more details pertaining to this and how the Congress really continues to respond.
Absolutely. Keep tracking the developments on that front. This is one yatra which is about Bharat Jodo, but what we have seen is massive politics over it. Thank you so much, Deepak. With that, a short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Times Now. Well, a major terror attack was averted after the Telangana police arrested 3 Hyderabad natives and suspected the LET operatives who had allegedly planned to bomb public gatherings during the festive season. In fact, the trio, Muhammad Abdul Zahid, Muhammad Samiuddin and Maz Hassan Farooq, prepared a blueprint to unleash terror and trigger panic and communal disharmony in the area. In fact, Times Now has also managed to access the FIR, which mentions that the key conspirator Zahid was in touch with Pakistan spy agency ISI and Lashkar handlers across the border. He even received foreign funds from unknown sources. In fact, the other 4 suspects are currently on the run.
देखिए, ये कायर लोग हैं, बुज़दिल लोग हैं और वो इस तरह से नेशनलिस्ट फोर्सेस को हमला को निशाने पे रख करके दहशत पैदा करके अपने नापाक मंसूबों को जस्टिफाई करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं.
Big breaking news, the RSS has demanded strict action after the Hyderabad terror files came to light. Listen in.
आतंकवादी ग्रुप, ISI के ग्रुप, PFI के ग्रुप, सिम्मी आदि के ग्रुप, जिनको विदेशों से वाया पाकिस्तान और पाकिस्तान से फंडिंग हो रही है, मॉनिटरिंग भी हो रही है और उसमें जो देश प्रेम, समाज सेवा, अनुशासन और सेवा के प्रतीक हैं, उन लोगों को यानी RSS, बीजेपी, विश्व हिंदू परिषद आदि के लोगों को किलिंग करना ये अमानवीय है, अराष्ट्रीय है. इसकी जितनी निंदा की जाए वो कम है, परंतु इन सब के खिलाफ प्रदेश और केंद्र सरकार ने सख्त कार्रवाई प्रारंभ की है.
With that breaking news which is coming in, first Union Minister's reaction from the central government is coming in on the Hyderabad terror fight. G. Krishan Reddy says that zero tolerance is there for terror and it is going to be crushed with an iron fist.
नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार देश में लगातार इस 8 सालों में टेररिज्म के विषय पर हम जीरो टॉलरेंसी पॉलिसी अपनाते हैं. वो क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म हो, पाकिस्तान स्पॉन्सर टेररिज्म हो, इंटरनल टेररिज्म हो, इंटरनेशनल टेररिज्म हो, जो भी टेररिज्म हो, हम टेररिज्म को कभी हम बढ़ावा नहीं देंगे. हमारा सरकार प्राइम रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, प्राइम पॉलिसी है. ये टेररिज्म के विषय पर जीरो टॉलरेंसी का पॉलिसी अपनाते हैं, क्योंकि टेररिज्म के कारण विकास नहीं होगा देश.
Well, let me go across to Shomit, who's joining us with more details on this. Shomit, it is, of course, a massive success for the security forces, for the Telangana police to have foiled the Hyderabad terror expose, which has now come to light. However, 4 of them out of 5, 4 of them are still absconding. Do we expect the Telangana police to track them down immediately? And also, will other central agencies, perhaps the NIA or other agencies, going to be involved in the probe?
Well, Meghna, already, Central Intelligence is involved in this matter, because even after sharing the intelligence by the central government, by the central agencies, even counterintelligence has shared their intel after, these 3 alleged terrorists who were having connections with the, terror organizations there, including the Lashkar-e-Taiba as well as the ISI. That intel was shared to the Hyderabad City Police, and then later, they have averted a major bomb blast, and also, we can say lone wolf attacks they have planned. So basically, we can say that the Sakio Zahid was involved in several cases of terrorist activities. He was in jail for 12 years. He was acquitted in task force office bomb blast case in 2017, and he was out since then. And he has revived his links with the ISI and Lashkar-e-Taiba operatives there in Pakistan. Actually, there were three accused who fled away from the Hyderabad city from India to the Pakistan. They settled there, including the Mohammad Gori and also Hamzada and the other accused. There were three people who fled away from India, and they were working for the LET and also the ISI. And they have sent a consignment from the Pakistan, in which more than 500 lakhs cash was there, and also 4 hand grenades was there. And after the consignment was received by Zahid, the prime accused, he was the one recruited 7 youngsters from the Hyderabad Soul City area, and they were the people who were planning to hurl grenade attacks on the BJP, RSS meetings, processions, as well as the Hindu festive gatherings, including Garba and the Dandiya events, we can say. So basically, after that, Hyderabad City Police immediately acted, and as of now, police have arrested 3 accused, including the prime accused Zahid, and also Farooq is in custody, and also Samiuddin is in custody, and 4 people are still.
In fact, do stay on with us. Kaliko Rahman of the TRS is also joining us. Mr. Rahman, if you can give us any update on the probe. Of course, big success for the security forces to have averted this terror plot, but all is not over. How wide does this terror network spread? Are there other overground workers? And where are the 4 people who are still absconding?
In fact, this is definitely a huge success that these people have been nabbed, and the plot has been unearthed, and those 4 absconding, the agencies and the police is on the lookout, and they will definitely be apprehended soon. But this is definitely a matter of great concern for the security, which in fact, no one can really be complacent about it, and there is no place for any kind of terror, and especially we had the crackdown recently on the PFI, and after that the PFI was banned in the country. So in a similar way, these raids are being conducted, and I'm sure that the agencies will definitely make sure that we will have.
Right. One quick question, however, Mr. Kaliko Rahman. What we have Union Minister G. Krishan Reddy saying, I'm going to quote him here. He says that central government is dealing with terror-related activities with a high in hand, but in the old city, AIMIM is supporting terrorists who are in jail, backing them, giving them legal and giving them money, as well as support to their families. It's not fair. If they are elected constitutionally, AIMIM party supporting terrorists has been wrong. Any such lead regarding AIMIM link coming up?
No, there's nothing, because I have in fact seen and listened to what the AIM Supremo has said.
Okay.
They have never encouraged, they have never, supported any kind of terror activities. Right. Rather, they are, helping the police, the agencies, in whatever way they are, and they are the first people who are condemned. So, let us not, have any kind of baseless allegations against anyone. It's not really right, actually.
No, this is what the Union Minister has said. So, we expect him to say it with certain amount of responsibility that there is AIMIM which is funding and supporting these elements. However, thank you so much, Kaliko Rahman, for giving your perspective. You are, of course, the TRS spokesperson. Meanwhile, breaking news which is coming in. All the accused have now been taken for medical examinations in the Hyderabad terror plot. This is the very latest which is coming in. 3 of the accused who have been nabbed. Zahid, who is, of course, the prime accused in this. Samiuddin and Farooq Maz in the terror module case. They have been brought to the Gandhi hospital. They are being taken for the medical examination. After that gets completed, they are going to be produced before the court. This is, of course, routine procedure which is followed by the police. Later, they are going to be then sent into judicial remand. So let me go across to Shamit. Shamit, those are the live visuals. The first time we are seeing the 3 faces of terror. One of them is Zamid. He is the main accused.
Well, Meghna, those are exclusive visuals we have accessed from the Gandhi Hospital, where after, they were picked up yesterday in the VRs, finally after interrogation and after the confession of Zahid, police have, taken them to the Gandhi Hospital now for the medical examination, including Zahid and Samiuddin and also the third accused, Mas Farooq, and they will be, undergoing this medical examination. Then they will be, sent to the Nampally court, where they will be produced before the court, and also after that, they will be sent to the judicial remand. As of now, police said that these three accused have been taken into the custody. They are in police custody and interrogation has already been completed, but also special task force teams, including AR and also law and order teams, have been formed by the Hyderabad City Police to nab the other 4 accused who are still at large. Actually, more than 4 accused. It is said that 7 names have been identified by the police, and also they are expecting that, they are suspecting that there will be more people, because initially 20 have been picked up by the police. So they have arrested 3 in that 20 and let off them. Other 17 were let off. But as of now, they have identified other 4 members, and also police said that there are also others, included in this, and all of them will be identified very soon, and even the other 4 will be taken into the custody very soon.
Well, in fact, that's a big story that we are getting for you. Any leads into the other people, the 4 of them, as we were discussing, who are still absconding, Sharmit? Because that's going to be the next step to ensure not only is this terror plot foiled, but also no other plan can be carried out. The entire terror network should be crushed.
Well, exactly, Meghna. See, initially we have to understand this perspective, because, after coming out from prison in 2017, Zahid was planning it since many years, we can say, because he's out since more than 5 years now. And he was planning, he has revived his contacts with the LET operatives, the ISI operatives in Pakistan. And also, it is very much confusing that, he has managed to get a consignment from the Pakistan, including 4 hand grenades. However, very, fortunately, Hyderabad police, taking the help of the central agencies, have busted this case, averted major blasts, we can say, because they have openly confessed that, the prime accused confessed that they have been planning for the lone wolf attacks, and also they were planning for the bomb blast at several places in the Hyderabad city, and later they will be also targeting the other places, because even in the Mumbai blast, for the main accused Gori was involved, and he is now in Pakistan. He's working for the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and he was the person coordinating with this Zahid, and this terrorist Zahid has was getting instructions from the Pakistan directly. He has recruited more than 7 youngsters in the Hyderabad Soul City, and where these people were planning clearly that they were just 2 days since yesterday, when they were picked up by the police. They were just 2 days, and they were planning in these 2 days. They were planning several bomb blasts and also lone wolf attacks. They already have they have these grenades, and also it is expected that police are also looking out in the other angles, because bomb blasts were planned. Even they would have also got the consignment of RDX. So even that angle is probed now, because in the confession, Zahid has clearly stated that but they are also planning for the bomb blast at crowded places at several in several places in the Hyderabad city, including in the Hindu festive gatherings.
Absolutely.
That is Garba,
so
and
the
also
3 accused for now being taken for a medical test shortly will be produced before the court, as well as we wait for more details and developments to come in thereafter. Thank you, Sharmit, for joining us. We'll come back to you in just a bit. For the moment, we shift our focus to another interesting story, and this has been a controversy brewing in the state of Maharashtra. The video war that is now broken out is the latest development, and this ahead of the Dussehra rally, wherein the Uddhav camp has released a teaser for the rally saying, "We never backstabbed anyone, but if anyone dares to backstab us, we will hack them."
मैदान कौन सा है, इसके बजाय उस मैदान से हमारे बाला साहेब ठाकरे जी, हिंदू हृदय सम्राट, इनकी भूमिका हम लोग आगे ले जा रहे हैं, उनके विचारधारा को आगे लेके जा रहे हैं। और इस राज्य में क्या हुआ है, इससे पहले 2-2.5 साल पहले पूरी जनता जानती है, इसलिए मुझे इसमें कोई बात कहनी नहीं। लोग काफ़ी समझदार है, लोग जैसे भारी समर्थन दे रहे राज्य में से, ये सभी जगह से, और उन्हें पता है कि ये राज्य जो है, ये सरकार जो बनी हुई है, आम लोगों की सरकार है।
पर मैं बहस नहीं करूंगा।
आप ये बोल रहे हो कि दूसरा कैंप रावण का कैंप है, फिर
हो सकता है। वही तो मैं अपने आप को उदाहरण दे दिया मैंने आपको कि रावण के साथ भी ये दशहरा है ना भैया, तो उसके लिए मैंने कहा उसमें रावण का वहाँ दहन होता है। आप वो भी देख रहे हो, तो बंगाली लोग वहाँ दशहरा रैली बनाते उत्सव मनाते हैं। अब हमारे उत्तर भारतीय भाई दशहरा की यहाँ मनाते हैं। नवरात्रि चलती है, दुर्गा का मतलब क्या है? दुर्गा क्या कहती है, जय देवी महिषासुर मर्दिनी। असुर है ना, असुर ये नहीं कि सामने राक्षसी दिखना चाहिए, राक्षसी प्रवृत्ति होती है, इसलिए मैंने अपवित्र कहा। तो अपवित्र लोगों की जो बने में कामना है वो ये माता पूरी नहीं करने देगी।
Now Shivaji Park as a venue is very, very important and close to the heart of both the camps of Shiv Sena, because it is here that Bala Saheb Thackeray spelled out the party's vision. Now the BJP has also slammed Uddhav Thackeray's camp, saying now Uddhav Thackeray's camp is urging both NCP and Congress to fill up the ground, has slammed Uddhav Thackeray for sacrificing Bal Thackeray's legacy.
दशहरे के शिवाजी पार्क के रैली में भीड़ इकट्ठी हो, मैदान भरा हुआ दिखे, इस कारण अब राष्ट्रवादी और कांग्रेस के नेताओं से मदद मांगी जा रही है। इनका वसूली कार्यक्रम और स्वर्गीय बाला साहब ठाकरे जी के विचारों को त्याग देना, इस कारण व्यथित होकर के जिनके पास जनाधार था वो सारे के सारे शिंदे जी के साथ चले गए। अब शिवाजी पार्क का मैदान तो भरना है, तो वे राष्ट्रवादी कांग्रेस के नेताओं से भीड़ इकट्ठा करने के लिए मदद मांग रहे हैं।
Let me quickly go across to Arunil joining us with more details. Arunil, it all started with a fight over the venue for Dussehra rally by both the sides, slowly, turned into a legal fight, and now seemingly the Bal Thackeray legacy is something that is being contended by both the sides here.
Well, Crispin, I'm reporting from the iconic Shivaji Park. You can see preparations are on at full swing at the Shivaji Park. This ground can accommodate around 1.5 lakh to 2 lakh people every year annually on the Dussehra Medava. First it was Bala Saheb Thackeray from 1966. He has been holding these massive rallies over here wherein Shiv Sainiks from across the state of Maharashtra gather at this iconic location. You can see near this Shivaji Park only, here is where you can see this is the house of Raj Thackeray. He also stays near Shivaji Park. So at a distance from here is the BKC ground. The capacity at the BKC ground is certainly more than the Shivaji Park, but politically speaking this ground definitely holds more significance. And since the Bombay High Court has given the order in the favor of the Uddhav Thackeray camp, there has been a newfound gutso amongst the Uddhav Thackeray camp as well. We spoke to Arvind Sawant. They have been calling the other faction of the Shiv Sena as the Ravan Sena. They've been saying that the evil will be defeated on the Dussehra day. From both the sides as well, a teaser war has broken out from the Uddhav Thackeray camp. They have been mainly highlighting the fact that how they don't backstab anybody, but if somebody backstabs them, then they will not be behind to hack that particular person as well, clearly taking out an attack on the CM Shinde camp. Whereas the CM Shinde camp has also released a trailer basically putting out an old video of Bal Thackeray wherein he has said that we will not only burn the corrupt Congress, but we will bury the corrupt Congress as well, clearly saying that the Congress party is in alliance with the Uddhav Thackeray camp. Now there is another claim coming in from the BJP and from the CM Shinde camp, basically saying that Uddhav Thackeray has asked for help from his alliance partners, that is the Congress and the NCP, to get their workers at the Shivaji Park.
Well, in that sense, now Shivaji Park is slowly turned into a battleground for the two warring sections of the Shiv Sena. Stay on with us, Arunil. A fresh row has also erupted over the parking lot for the Eknath Shinde faction. We're being told that the Shinde camp will be holding the Dussehra rally now at the BKC ground. That's something that we know already. And the parking space for the supporters is going to be provided at the Mumbai University. But where is students' unions and wings? Students' wings are not happy over the fact that educational premises are being used for political purposes. A letter has in fact been written by the student union to the governor of Maharashtra, and Times Now is reporting from the ground, which is the epicenter of this controversy. Quickly playing out another ground report.
Amid Sena's split and much awaited Dussehra rally, we are seeing that both faction of Shiv Sena is trying to establish their power in the state of Maharashtra, and on 5th of October it's going to be the much discussed Dussehra rally taking place. Currently we are at Mumbai University campus, and the visuals what my video journalist Ashish is showing you, the entire area is in fact being cleaned up, the bushes are being rooted out, and this is being done for car parking, as we know that more than 50,000 people from Thane itself will be coming to CM Eknath Shinde's Dussehra rally. Moving to this side also, you can see how the work is in progress. They are ensuring the expedite work so that before 5th everything is being set, and the distance in fact from BKC ground to this particular spot is somewhere around 2.5 kilometers approximately. So yes, over to this side will be the BKC ground, and this entire area is kept for the vehicles parking, and that's a huge arrangement being done. But also with this comes an important point of students protesting. That's correct. Now students are alleging that these premises of university campus should not be used by political leaders for their political mileage, and this is the reason why now NSUI, including ABVP and Yuva Sena and NCP student wing, have been protesting about this and writing the letter to the governor of Maharashtra.
I am really shocked and surprised that the University of Mumbai Kalina campus has been allotted as a parking space for people coming to attend a political event on Vijayadashmi. As soon as we raised our question and a letter was sent to the acting Vice Chancellor, Registrar and the Governor of Maharashtra, I have just few minutes before received a 149 notice from the BKC police station stating me to stay away from this issue and not to create any rift. But I am making it very sure that NSUI Mumbai won't tolerate any political event getting into the Kalina campus, and we would make sure that on Vijayadashmi not even a single political vehicle come down to the Kalina campus.
दशहरे के दिन शिंदे गुट की बीकेसी पे रैली होनी जा रही है। बीकेसी पे जो रैली हो रही है, इसलिए जो महाराष्ट्र के लोग आने वाले हैं उनकी पार्किंग की व्यवस्था मुंबई यूनिवर्सिटी के कॉम्प्लेक्स में किया गया है। इसके पहले हमने आवाज़ उठाया था कि ये जो जगह है ये एजुकेशन जगह है, स्टूडेंट की जगह है, यहाँ पे कोई प्राइवेट गाड़ी अंदर आके पार्क नहीं कर सकती है, ये स्वायत्त संस्था है। लेकिन भी मुंबई महानगर पालिका ने यहाँ पे लेटर भेज के जगह की साफ सफाई करने का काम किया है। कुछ पेड़ भी काटे गए हैं, इसके हम खिलाफ है। अगर वो वहाँ पे गाड़ी लगाएंगे तो हम अलग तरीके से वहाँ पे आंदोलन करेंगे।
The rally is slated for 5th of October. A lot of developments taking place in the build-up to that. With that, it's time for us to head into a very short break. News and updates continue. Don't go anywhere.
The most pressing issue, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
आपको सब फिल्म स्टार ही चाहिए मथुरा में।
नहीं हेमा मालिनी
कन्हैया जी ने भक्त चाहिए जी कल रात की सावन का आपको सब फिल्म स्टार ही चाहिए मथुरा में।
नहीं हेममान
कन्हैया जी ने भक्त चाहिए कल राखी सावन तक बहुत अच्छी बात है।
आपका क्या विचार है इस बार? आप
मेरा विचार क्या मैं बताऊं, मेरा विचार भगवान के ऊपर है। लॉर्ड कृष्णा विल डू इट।
मैं तो देश की सेवा के लिए ही पैदा हुई हूँ और मैं देश की सेवा करना चाहती हूँ। और क्यों नहीं, हमारे मोदी साहब, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी चाय बनाते बनाते प्रधानमंत्री जी पीएम बन सकते हैं, तो मैं बॉलीवुड में काम करते करते सीएम क्यों नहीं बन सकती हूँ? डेफिनेटली मैं बनूंगी। आप सबका आशीर्वाद चाहिए। तो 2024 में अब आप मुझे चुनाव लड़ते हुए देखेंगे। किसके अपोजिट? ये सरप्राइज है।
Welcome back. Well, after the Bajrang Dal warned non-Hindus to stay away from Garba when news incidents of assault are continuously being reported from parts of Madhya Pradesh. In the latest, 2 non-Hindus were apprehended by the Bajrang Dal in Indore after they allegedly tried to enter a Garba venue and recorded videos or allegedly were found to be recording videos. The individuals are residents of Bihar who are staying on rent in Indore, and after their entry at the venue, Bajrang Dal members handed the 2 to the police. This is the 4th such incident that has come to light in the last 4 days, which is now further put the Madhya Pradesh Sarkar in a tough spot. So those are the kind of incidents that have been coming to light from Madhya Pradesh, and a lot of political backlash also that the Madhya Pradesh government is having to face now. Political slugfest that has been going on over the matter since the last couple of days. Remember, the State Home Minister Narottam Mishra justified the process of identity check at the entrance of these venues, and the Congress has come out to slam the Saffron Party for creating a divide between the people in the country.
शक्ति की आराधना के दिन होते हैं, माँ की पूजा के दिन है ये, और स्वाभाविक रूप से हमारी जो संस्कृति मंत्री जी हैं वो इस बारे में स्पष्ट कह चुकी हैं। तो जो भी व्यक्ति आएगा तो गरबा के आयोजकों को ये देखना होगा कि वो आई कार्ड उनका देखें, पहचान सबकी हो, जिससे कोई अप्रिय स्थिति का निर्माण न हो। उसके पीछे भाव सिर्फ इतना है, बाकी पूजा के लिए सभी आ सकते हैं और माँ की आराधना कर सकते हैं।
कोई भी धर्म का धर्मावलंबी किसी भी धर्म के प्रति यदि आदर करता है और यदि उसकी निगाह और दृष्टि साफ है तो उसे रोकना नहीं चाहिए। अब ये सरकार का सोचना है कि कानून व्यवस्था को लेकर क्या करती है। बजरंग दल, विश्व हिंदू परिषद या भाजपा के लोग इस तरह की बातें कर रहे हैं और इन सभी के आका दिल्ली में मस्जिद में इमाम साहब से मिल रहे हैं। तो दरअसल ये विचारधारा चाहती क्या है।
Party has also hit out at the Samajwadi Party Neta S.T. Hasan, who asked non-Hindus to stay away from the event. The UP minister Danish Azad has now said that leaders are saying this just for the sake of limelight. They're just wanting to grab some limelight and they should not make such statements.
बड़े अफसोस की बात है कि कुछ हमारे आदरणीय नेतागण अननेसेसरी बिना वजह की बातों पे सुर्खियां बटोरना ये निश्चित तौर पे उचित नहीं है। हम सबको सकारात्मक भाव से राजनीति में आगे बढ़ना चाहिए और संस्कृति, कला संस्कृति को बढ़ावा देने में अपना योगदान देना चाहिए।
Let me go across to Govind joining us live with more details. Govind, now what is the ground reality? Because, you know, while Narottam Mishra, the Madhya Pradesh minister, is saying that anybody who wishes to offer prayers at any of these venues is more than welcome to do so, the Bajrang Dal activists apparently are doing an identity check, a thorough one at that, at the behest of the government's orders, and are stopping everyone who's a non-Hindu from entering the premises. The Congress has been taking pot shots. Several other political parties have been taking pot shots. What's the ground reality really?
If we talk about the ground reality, you know that since the Garba festival starts in Madhya Pradesh, a number of pictures we are witnessing that how the members of Bajrang Dal catching non-Hindu youth from the Garba Pandal, and they just making kind of complaint against them, and the police is taking action against them. It's not all of a sudden happen. In fact, we can understand that whatever the reaction came from the Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Narottam Mishra, and the Minister, Cultural Minister Usha Thakur, and one step ahead, the statement clearly given by the MP, BJP MP of Bhopal, Pragya Singh Thakur. So these are the statements, these were the reactions, and now on these reactions we are witnessing the hard action. And you know that in Indore alone, 14 have been booked so far, initially 7, then after 2, then after 3, then after 2, then after 3 more. So far 17 have been booked, and it's clearly written outside the Garba Pandal that non-Hindu are not allowed to participate in Garba festival, whether it's being organized there in Indore, in Bhopal, in Ujjain. So everywhere we are witnessing such pictures, and on the other, opposition is claiming that it's nothing but a kind of hypocrisy to set out the guideline for the identity card. In fact, it's not identity card, it's the specific intention of not allowing Muslim community in such kind of programs. Even Home Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Narottam Mishra, has clearly said that if Muslim want to take part in such programs, they must go for setting up their own Garba Pandal according to them, their own accordance in fact. So this is what we are witnessing, that what all the pictures are coming from all across the cities in Madhya Pradesh, such pictures which are a bit controversial, and opposition is also putting question on law and order, because in Garba Pandal, you know that how members of Bajrang Dal are using the third degree torture, in fact, to
and that's
those
the question,
who are
Govind, that is being raised, especially when it comes to the role that some of the VHP and Bajrang Dal activists have been playing in quote-unquote guarding these pandals and these venues, as to how is it that they're being allowed to take law into their own hands. Thank you for joining us with all those details. We need to quickly shift our focus to another round of breaking news update. that has just come in. The police has arrested 5 people from the Durga Puja committee in Bhadohi after 5 people lost their life in the tragic fire incident at the pandal. Over 60 people, remember, have sustained injuries, and now police has gone ahead with 5 arrests in this very case. Now we're talking about Bhadohi, wherein puja organizers have been booked, and initial details also suggested that fire safety norms were flouted. More news coming in with regards to this. With regards to Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, who's also taken cognizance of the Pandal fire mishap, and he's directed officials to ensure compliance with fire safety norms, and in fact has issued an appeal to Durga Puja organizers to be mindful of security of the devotees. So that's the word coming in from Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath with regards to how fire safety norms were flouted. The Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister has issued an order to the officials asking them to ensure compliance with fire safety norms and also being mindful of the devotees' security. With that, it's time for us to head into a very short break. News and updates continue. Stay tuned.
there was a big song and dance about internet being cut. Okay. Now, if you reach a stage where you say an internet cut is more dangerous than the loss of human lives, then what can I say?
India's illegal and unilateral actions of 5th August 2019 to change the internationally recognized disputed status of Jammu and Kashmir and to alter the demographic structure of the occupied territory further undermined the prospects of peace.
A very good afternoon. Thanks for staying with us here on Times Now. I'm Kritsween Walia. Let's quickly get started. First up with the top headlines of the day. Major boost to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Indian Air Force inducts first batch of indigenously developed light combat helicopters. Raksha Mantri lauds Prachand Power. Congress politicizes. LCH Prachanda says manufacturer HAL was dropped from Rafale deal. No end to Garba vigilantism in Madhya Pradesh. 14 non-Hindus booked so far for attending Garba festivities. Politicians back segregation, say nothing wrong with allowing entry only to Hindus. With Bharat Jodo in Karnataka, Rahul Gandhi visits Sutur Mutt, Chamundeshwari temple and also a cathedral and then a masjid as well. Sonia Gandhi also visits Mysuru as Gandhis make major push in state ahead of polls next year. BJP MP Lair Singh stirs Rao writes letter to Rahul Gandhi and questions if the Bharat Jodo Yatra is backed by Naxals. Terror attack in South Kashmir kills policeman and injured a CRPF Jawan, prompting the forces to further beef up security ahead of the two-day visit of Union Home Minister Amit Shah beginning today. Fight for Bala Sahib legacy continues. Now video war breaks out with Uddhav Thackeray claiming never to backstab anyone and Shinde faction claiming that they will take Bala Sahib's legacy forward. RSS General Secretary has now red flagged poverty and joblessness, says it is India's demon and it is imperative to slay this demon ahead of Dussehra. RJD has dared RSS to question BJP's poll promises. 5 dead in fatal blaze at Bhadoi Durga Puja Pandal. Organizers of the event booked and UP CM directs officials to ensure compliance with fire safety norms. Straight up, starting with the latest we're tracking from Hyderabad, a major terror attack was averted after Telangana police arrested 3 Hyderabad natives and suspected Lashkar-e-Toiba operatives who had allegedly planned to bomb public gatherings during the festive season. The 3 accused, Muhammad Abdul Zahid, Muhammad Samiuddin and Maz Hassan Farooq, prepared a blueprint to unleash terror and trigger panic and communal disharmony. Now, Times Now has also accessed the FIR, which mentions that the key conspirator, Zahid, was in touch with Pakistan's spy agency, the ISI, and also Lashkar handlers across the border. He even received foreign funds from unknown sources, as per details shared by the police, and the other 4 suspects are currently on the run. So 3 have already been arrested. The 3, by the way, have also been in the latest taken for a medical examination, will shortly be produced before the court as well. But a sensational charge has been levelled by Union Minister Kishan Reddy against the AIMIM as well. First up, let's listen into that reaction coming in.
नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार देश में लगातार इस 8 सालों में
टेररिज्म के विषय पर हम जीरो टॉलरेंस पॉलिसी अपनाते हैं। वो क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म हो, पाकिस्तान स्पॉन्सर टेररिज्म हो, इंटरनल टेररिज्म हो, इंटरनेशनल टेररिज्म हो, जो भी टेररिज्म हो, हम टेररिज्म को कभी हम बढ़ावा नहीं देंगे। हमारा सरकार प्राइम रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, प्राइम पॉलिसी है, ये टेररिज्म के विषय पर जीरो टॉलरेंस का पॉलिसी अपनाते हैं, क्योंकि टेररिज्म के कारण विकास नहीं होगा देश।
And there's an update coming in as far as this terror plot case is concerned. The three accused, like I mentioned, have been brought to Gandhi Hospital for medical examination, and after completion of the medical test, they will be produced before the court and perhaps later be sent to judicial remand. On that, let me go across to Shomit joining us with more details. Shomit, shortly expecting right after the medical examinations conclude, the three accused will be produced before the court. What more can you tell us? Sensational charges not just being leveled against, these three operatives, their terror module and their modus operandi, but against the AIMIM as well by Union Minister.
Speaking to Times Now exclusively, has stated that the central government's policy is zero tolerance against the terrorism. It might be the internal terrorism or the external or the cross-border terrorism. Because in this matter, it was clearly stated in writing by the Hyderabad City Police that these three accused, actually the prime accused Zahid, who was involved in several terror-related activities and also was the prime accused in the task force office suicide bomb blast. He was in the prison for 12 years. He was acquitted due to the lack of evidence, and he also claimed that its system's failure and its 12 years have been wasted by the state government, and in just 5 years he was planning all these things, and he was planning lone wolf attacks after receiving clear instructions from the Lashkar-e-Taiba operatives as well as from the ISI. And there were three accused who have fled away to the Pakistan, and they were the people actually giving instructions to Zahid, and it was very much clearly, written in the, even FIR report, and we have accessed it exclusively. And Kishan Reddy has also launched a scathing attack against the AIMIM party, stating that AIMIM, always, gives support and also backs the terrorists who are been arrested by the even central agencies or the state police who are in prison. They will be, AIMIM will be giving them legal aid and also will be giving them funds, money to them as well as to their families, which is actually wrong. And also he stated that, they shouldn't support these terrorists, and however we have several times we have saw Asaduddin Owaisi stating that the chief of the AIMIM party stating that legal aid is the minimum need, and it's a legal right which deserves by the terrorist, and that is the reason AIMIM actually supports them in giving the legal aid. But however that has been condemned by the BJP party, and as of now, if we speak about the case, as of now the accused have been sent to the Gandhi Hospital. There they are undergoing the medical examination, and very soon it is expected that they will be sent to the court in front of the judge, actually, because courts are also as of now courts are under leave, Dasara leave, and so it is expected that they will be taken to the magistrate's house, and there they will be produced before the magistrate, and then they will be sent to the judicial remand.
Absolutely. If we talk about the role of these three accused that has been shared by the police, there is a lot that has been revealed, not just how they were in touch with LET operatives and Pakistan's ISI, but also how they were planning to carry out attacks apart from these processions during festivals here in Telangana. Also, some of the RSS and BJP leaders were on their targets. So we're tracking that very, very closely. More reactions coming in. Listen in.
आतंकवादी ग्रुप, ISI के ग्रुप, PFI के ग्रुप, सिम्मी आदि के ग्रुप, जिनको विदेशों से वाया पाकिस्तान और पाकिस्तान से फंडिंग हो रही है, मॉनिटरिंग भी हो रही है, और उसमें जो देश प्रेम, समाज सेवा, अनुशासन और सेवा के प्रतीक हैं, उन लोगों को यानी RSS, BJP, विश्व हिंदू परिषद आदि के लोगों को किलिंग करना, ये अमानवीय है, अराष्ट्रीय है। इसकी जितनी निंदा की जाए वो कम है, परंतु इन सब के खिलाफ प्रदेश और केंद्र सरकार ने सख्त कार्रवाई प्रारंभ की है।
Well, just a day before Union Home Minister Amit Shah's visit, terrorists once again struck Jammu and Kashmir. A special police officer lost his life in the line of duty yesterday. A CRPF personnel also sustained injuries in a terrorist attack that took place in Pulwama. Now, terrorists have been targeting security forces in the valley, but this becomes specifically of utmost importance given that Union Home Minister Amit Shah's visit is also just hours away. A joint security forces team yesterday that was deployed for the security of Kashmiri Hindu families in the region was targeted by these terrorists, and CCTV footage of the dastardly attack has come to the fore, showing how in a cowardly assault the terrorists fired from behind. And with regards to how the security arrangements have been beefed up, security setup has been beefed up. We're being told that several checkposts have been installed and security has been intensified across Kashmir given Union Home Minister Amit Shah's visit. In fact, Pradeep gets us this ground report on the same. Listen, take a look.
Home Minister Amit Shah is on a 3-day visit of Jammu and Kashmir. Keeping in view this high-profile visit, security in and around Jammu and Kashmir has been beefed up. Not only that, nakas have been raised at several points. Police personnel and paramilitary force personnel are deployed at several points to ensure that no untoward incident takes place. In the last few days, we have seen that how terrorists are trying to escalate gun violence-related incidents so that they can send a message loud and clear that all is not well in Kashmir Valley. But we have seen that security forces continue to dominate scenes so far as counter-terror operation are concerned. During the last 4 encounters, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar terrorists have been eliminated. But terrorists are trying to make their presence felt by targeting innocent civilians. We saw that yesterday there was an attack on police personnel and CRPF personnel in Pulwama area. And they also tried to target bank manager in Patan area. Reason is that Amit Shah is here on a mission. And mission is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Vikas. And that means he is going for delivery, development and dialogue with the people who had been totally neglected and ignored. This time he's trying to reach out to Gujar, Bakarwals and Pahadis in Rajouri, where he's going to address a rally. Not only that, he is also going to address historic rally in Baramulla district, where he will try to reach out that particular section of people who had only been treated like vote bank. Nobody was in fact looking towards their welfare. He will be paying obeisance at Mata Vaishno Devi shrine, and after taking blessings of goddess, he is going to start his tour visiting different places. He will also be reviewing security of this area and also going to launch several development projects. One thing is quite clear, that this is not palatable to Pakistan and Pak proxies. They can't see smile on the faces of Kashmiris. They can't see development in this region. This is one of the reasons that they are going for cowardly attacks. But because of security force pressure, they are not succeeded in their ugly mission. And here you can see several nakas have been raised at several points. Checking has been intensified. Security has been beefed up to ensure that terrorists are kept at bay. And this visit, people are able to benefit, because at the end of the day, development is not only going to improve economic situation, but it's also going to provide employment to youngsters. That means no more the youngsters of the Kashmir Valley will be used as cannon fodder by terrorists.
Absolutely, you are right. Pakistan is an enemy of development, is a lover of destruction. That is what they've done for the last 30 years, over 30 years. They won't like any developmental activity to happen. They won't like people to heave a sigh of relief and lead a normal life. So definitely Pakistan and its agencies have been ensuring that the valley remains not in peace but in disturbance. But now that things are better, things are improving every day. So therefore, definitely I would say that that is the purpose behind this kind of acts.
Now remember, ahead of the Dussehra rally in Mumbai, the Shinde camp has also taken out a teaser, really giving it back to the Uddhav Thackeray faction, because earlier on they too came out with a trailer for the same. But the Shinde camp maintaining at the moment, while inviting people to come to BKC for real Shiv Sena's Dussehra Mela, they say here Bal Thackeray's true Hindutva ideology. And while taking a jibe at the Uddhav Thackeray camp, the poster says, "What will you hear from the Gaddars and the Besharams?" That's the jibe being taken by the Shinde camp at the moment.
I शिवरायाचा भगवा झेंडा, शिवसेनेचा भगवा झेंडा, हिंदू धर्माचा भगवा झेंडा सातत्यानं आसमानात फडकत राहायला पाहिजे. जय हिंद, जय महाराष्ट्र, वंदे मातरम.
शिवसेनेचा दसरा मेळावा, BKC बांद्रा मुंबई.
आणि शिवरायाचा भगवा झेंडा, शिवसेनेचा भगवा.
So that's the Shinde camp's response to Uddhav Thackeray camp's teaser hinting at the fact that they will not spare anyone who backstabs them. The war of words continues in via these video messages that are being hint out at each other. We slip into a very short break. Be back with more news and updates on the other side. yes, we stay on with the latest breaking news update that just came in of how the Shinde camp has given a rebuttal to the Uddhav Thackeray camp via this very teaser, and it says come to BKC for real Sena's Dussehra Mela and hear Bala Thackeray's true Hindutva ideology. Let me go back to Arunil. Arunil, the war of words has now converted into a video war of sorts, and we see both the sides essentially hitting out at each other and truly claiming Bala Saheb Thackeray's legacy.
Well, this fight is about who is the real Shiv Sainik, who will carry the real Hindutva ideology and the legacy of Bala Saheb Thackeray. First, the attack came in from the Uddhav Thackeray camp, wherein it could be heard saying that we don't backstab anybody, but if anybody is going to backstab us, we are not going to leave that person. We will basically hack that person. That's what been clearly said in that video that was released from the Uddhav Thackeray camp. Now comes a rebuttal from the CM Shinde camp, basically taking out an attack at the Shivaji Park rally, at the Uddhav Thackeray camp rally, basically telling the Shiv Sainiks that if you go there, you are going to hear only Gaddar or Khoke. Khoke means Karor in Marathi, or Sharam, all these kind of words you are going to hear over there. But if you want to hear something that follows the Hindutva legacy of Bala Saheb Thackeray, then you should come to the BKC ground. At present, I am reporting from the Sena Bhavan. Now, this is the Sena Bhavan, wherein Shiv Sena leaders have reached over here. Subhash Desai is inside, Anil Desai is also inside. Several Shiv Sainiks have been asked to come here. Mainly the district presidents, the Vibhag Pramukhs, the Shakha Pramukhs, they have been asked to come here. The main motive of this meeting is to tell the local Shiv Sena leaders to get the party supporters of the Uddhav Thackeray camp in as many as numbers as possible, in largest numbers as possible, because from both the camps there is a claim that has come in saying that whichever party draws more crowd for their Dussehra Melawa, a perception can be created that that party has more support amongst the Shiv Sainiks. And also there are many Shiv Sainiks who are still on the borderline. They have not decided which camp to join. And if any party that can get more Shiv Sainiks, those Shiv Sainiks who have not decided as yet, there is a chance that they may join that camp of the Shiv Sena. So yes, a big perception battle has broken out. There was battle regarding the Shivaji Park ground as well. Now that has been sorted, and the BKC ground, which is at a distance from the Shivaji Park ground, that can also hold more number of crowd, more number of people from as compared to the Shivaji Park ground. And there is a claim from both the camps saying that support from the alliance partners. With respect to the CM Shinde camp, they have been claiming that Congress and NCP are supporting the Uddhav Thackeray camp to get more supporters, and there is a claim from the Uddhav Thackeray camp which says that CM Shinde camp is taking support of the BJP. The BJP is openly supporting them with their own cadre, so that the ground looks full over there.
Absolutely. Now, with the Bombay High Court order, there was certainty as to who really gets to hold the Dussehra rally at the Shivaji Park ground. But the Shinde camp seems at this point in time, Arunil, have their own plans in place. And what is extremely clear is, of course, after the massive political loss of face for the Uddhav camp, this event and this Dussehra rally is now increasingly becoming about who really holds more ground strength in Maharashtra.
Well, the Dussehra Melawa holds immense significance in the history of the Shiv Sena. It started in 1966 when Bala Saheb Thackeray started holding the Dussehra Melawa. He used to make these aggressive speeches during the Dussehra Melawa, and Shiv Sainiks from across Maharashtra used to gather over there. And now both the factions have been claiming that they are the true followers. They will be carrying the true legacy of Bala Saheb Thackeray. They are the real Shiv Sena. That's what their claim is. So how many Shiv Sainiks come for these rallies will be very paramount, will be extremely paramount for both these factions to prove that which is the real Shiv Sena. The battle is happening in the Supreme Court as well, that who is going to get the bow and arrow symbol of the Shiv Sena, who will be the real Shiv Sena, that will be decided by the Election Commission. The same battle was happening in the Supreme Court as well. But this main battle is on the ground. if on the ground, if one party claims that they have more supporters, if one party gets more crowd than the other, then it can hold an advantage as well. At the Sena Bhavan also, from where I am reporting, a similar kind of meeting is expected in some time. You can see women workers are also arriving over here, wherein women party leaders will also be told to get maximum support, as much as support as possible, so that the Shivaji Park ground looks full, looks the way it used to look earlier, despite the factionalism that has hit the Uddhav Thackeray's Shiv Sena
Yes,
Park.
so essentially speaking, the Shinde camp has not seen the Bombay High Court order as a setback. In fact, has resorted to its plan B, is at least what it appears to be at the moment. Let's see what plays out really when the Dussehra rally actually takes place at both the venues. Thank you, Arnil, for joining us with those details. Slipping into a quick break for now.
The most pressing issue, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
आपको सब फिल्म स्टार ही चाहिए मथुरा में।
नहीं हेमा
कन्हैया जी ने भक्त चाहिए जी राधे राधे। कल राखी सावंत का देंगे। ऑल्सो बिकम। मथुरा के जो सांसद बनना चाहेंगे उसको तो आप बनने नहीं देंगे। आप दिमाग में सबको ऐसा डाल के रखेंगे फिल्म स्टार ही बनेगा। आपको सब फिल्म स्टार ही चाहिए मथुरा में।
नहीं हेमा
कन्हैया जी ने भक्त चाहिए जी राधे राधे। कल राखी सावंत का देंगे। ऑल्सो बिकम। बहुत अच्छी बात है।
आपका क्या विचार है इस बार? आप
मेरा विचार क्या मैं बताऊं? मेरा विचार भगवान के ऊपर है। लॉर्ड कृष्णा विल डू इट।
मैं तो देश की सेवा के लिए ही पैदा हुई हूँ और मैं देश की सेवा करना चाहती हूँ। और क्यों नहीं, हमारे मोदी साहब, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी चाय बनाते बनाते प्रधानमंत्री जी पीएम बन सकते हैं, तो मैं बॉलीवुड में काम करते करते सीएम क्यों नहीं बन सकती हूँ? डेफिनेटली मैं बनूंगी। आप सबका आशीर्वाद चाहिए। तो 2024 में अब आप मुझे चुनाव लड़ते हुए देखेंगे। किसके अपोजिट? ये सरप्राइज है।
Hi there, warm welcome. You're watching Breaking Ground with me, Meghna Rekha. Lots lined up for you in this bulletin. First up, let's tell you how Congress is facing twin trouble amidst its Bharat Jodo Yatra. On one hand, pro-Kannada groups are up in arms after Rahul Gandhi's picture featured on the Karnataka flag. And on the other hand, BJP MP has accused the Congress of having Maoist links, alleging that they are backing Congress's Yatra. Leher Singh Siroi has in fact accused the then Siddaramaiah government of giving monetary and logistical support to the ultras to organize memorial. In the very latest, which is now coming up, Rahul Gandhi's picture is the one which has irked the people of Karnataka. Segments asking why is Rahul Gandhi's picture on the Karnataka flag. In fact, let's get you some reactions which are coming in, starting from Veerappan Moily on the controversies which have been coming in.
It is very clear that in Karnataka, panic button is pressed by the BJP through various agencies, including Leher Singh. Honor to Karnataka flag. A national leader like Rahul Gandhi's photo appears there. That means the state is honored. It is not an election campaign. It's not meant to be an election campaign.
In fact, let me go across to Deepak Bopanna, who is joining us. Deepak, tell us about the latest controversy which has been kicked up this time around about Rahul Gandhi's face on the flag of Karnataka, the state flag of Karnataka.
Well, up until now, the BJP, of course, is saying that this is an insult to the Karnataka state flag. They're also saying that, this is them disrespecting it. Meanwhile, as far as the Congress leaders are concerned, they're maintaining that, this is being used as a matter of pride. And they're saying that Rahul Gandhi, while he's in Karnataka, is respecting the Karnataka flag, the state and its culture more than anything else. They're also saying that it only adds value to the flag. I've spoken to many pro-Kannada groups. Most of them, of course, believe that there is no issue with this, but the BJP, of course, has termed it as being disrespectful. We'll really have to see whether there will be any more activists, pro-Kannada activists who've been quite vocal about such issues in the past, who'll come out and make any sort of objections. But as far as DK Shivkumar is concerned, or we heard Mr. Moily as well speak there, they are making it very clear that there was no disrespect intended.
Well, in fact, do stay on with us. Let's also tell our viewers about the other controversy that we have been speaking about. The Congress, of course, has justified Rahul Gandhi's image on the Karnataka flag. Meanwhile, there is BJP which has attacked the Congress party, saying that Congress has a link to the ultras, to the Maoists and the Naxals. Listen in to the attack coming in from BJP MP Leher Singh.
These things by Naxalite entering in their domain, it may damage them. So the word of caution to them, because I have some clues that some Naxalite, former Naxalite and their well-wishers and their promoters, they are the part of, they might be part of this yatra, organizing this yatra.
Well, in fact, an unfazed Congress has said that the popularity of Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra has rattled the BJP, which is why one controversy after the other is being kicked up. Listen in.
भारत जोड़ो यात्रा की लहर से बीजेपी घबराई हुई है। ये बिल्कुल बोगस बकवास सवाल हैं और ये सिर्फ इसलिए उठाए गए हैं इस मौके में कि भारत जोड़ो यात्रा पर एक कुछ न कुछ फेंकते रहेंगे रोज। कर्नाटक में लोग पीड़ित हुए हैं और बदलाव चाहते हैं, परिवर्तन चाहते हैं।
But adding more wind to the sails of Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra is Sonia Gandhi. Well, she's arrived at Mysuru in Karnataka and she's bolstered the Bharat Jodo Yatra of the Congress party. Let me go across to Deepak. Deepak, optically as well, what does it mean for Sonia Gandhi herself to be part of this leg, the specific leg of the Bharat Jodo Yatra?
Well, it's massive, isn't it? And for the Congress party, which at this point in time needs all the help it can get in the upcoming elections in Karnataka, the Bharat Jodo Yatra in itself is 20 days in Karnataka, one of the longest in the plan that Rahul Gandhi has to walk, this time from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. And now with Sonia Gandhi herself being going to take part in this Yatra, then we are also told Priyanka Gandhi also could walk. It will definitely help the Congress, but we'll really have to see how the BJP really, ups the ante, because while the Bharat Jodo Jodo Yatra is happening on one end, while the BJP has been dismissing it, saying that it's not going to really help Rahul Gandhi or Congress in any way. But there is elections in Karnataka in about 6 months. There are Congress local leaders as well. Mr. D.K. Shivakumar and Siddaramaiah have been continuously walking with Mr. Rahul Gandhi, with Sonia Gandhi as well being here. How does it really help the Congress, and also does it really take away any chances of the BJP here, especially in certain bastions that they're walking through? The old Mysuru region, where BJP hasn't really made a big dent in the past, but did manage to do well fairly last time around, and are looking hopeful with now with one MLA as well with them from that particular region. But there is a lot of anxiety, political anxiety at this point in time, and with Sonia Gandhi, who's already arrived in Mysuru, she's of course going to be at a resort. There's a 2-day break for the yatra because of the festivities here that are going to take place over the next couple of days, and then it resumes where she's going to join the yatra early in the morning on Nagmangala in Mandya on the 6th of October. So we'll really have to see how the BJP really counters this entire push by the Congress party through the Bharat Jodo.
Well, absolutely. And also a bit of Congress Jodo they'll have to attempt when they are in Karnataka. We can see D.K. Shivakumar standing right there next to Sonia Gandhi in amidst the factionalism that we have seen between the two leaders, Siddaramaiah and D.K. Shivakumar. Keep tracking the developments on that front. Thank you so much, Deepak, for joining us with all those details. But with that, let's move on in the bulletin. Talk about the awful tragedy at Bhadoi. Well, the police there have arrested 5 people from the Durga Puja committee in Bhadoi after 5 people lost their lives in the tragic fire incident at the pandal. Over 60 people have been injured in the blaze. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has ordered the officials to ensure compliance with the safety norms. In fact, our colleague Ashutosh has filed this report from Bhadoi, where the fire tragedy had occurred.
भदोही के जिस दुर्गा पूजा पंडाल में भीषण अग्निकांड हुआ, वहां की तस्वीरें हम आपको दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। हमारे ठीक पीछे ये वही पंडाल है जहां पर कल यानी नवरात्रि के सप्तमी की रात में भीषण अग्निकांड हुआ था और देखते ही देखते ये पूरा पूजा का पंडाल खाक में तब्दील हो गया। यहाँ की तस्वीरें आप देखिए कि जो लकड़ियाँ हैं या फिर पूजा पंडाल में लगे जो पर्दे हैं सब कुछ चल चुके थे। यही नहीं, जो सबसे अहम बात यह है कि इस पूजा पंडाल में की सजावट के लिए जो लाइटें लगी थी, जो तारें लगी थी, वो किस तरीके से जर्जर है, उसकी एक तस्वीर हम आपको दिखाने की कोशिश करते हैं कि देखिए कुछ इसी तरह की जो तार थे वो यहाँ पर लाइटिंग के लिए लगाए गए थे और ये पूरा जो तार है हर 1 से 1.5 मीटर की दूरी पर आप देख सकते हैं कि उसमें टेप लगाए गए हैं और किस तरीके से वो जर्जर तार थे। आप इन तस्वीरों से आप बखूबी समझ सकते हैं कि देखिए ये तस्वीरें जो हैं बखूबी आप यहाँ की जो लापरवाही है उसको बताने के लिए काफ़ी हैं कि पूरा का पूरा जो तार था वो बेहद जर्जर था और बताया ये जा रहा कि जो इन्हीं तारों की वजह से चिंगारी भड़की की और इस चिंगारी ने देखते ही देखते पूरे पूजा पंडाल को अपने आगोश में ले लिया। जिस वक्त ये हादसा हुआ उस वक्त पंडाल में लगभग 500 के आसपास लोग मौजूद थे और बमुश्किल से 10 से 15 फीट का ये पंडाल का जो फ्रंट एरिया है वहाँ पर था और वहाँ पर 3 बैरिकेडिंग की गई थी। आप देख सकते हैं कि एक तरफ से एक रो में आने के लिए था और दूसरे रो में जाने के लिए और तीसरे रो में दर्शन करने के लिए जो जगह थी वो मुकर्रर की गई थी, बनाई गई थी। और इस दौरान जब ये हादसा हुआ, जब आरती चल रही थी तो पूरा पंडाल लोगों से, दर्शनार्थियों से पूरा खचाखच भरा हुआ था और जिसकी वजह से जब वहां पर आग लगी तो लोगों को बचने की जगह नहीं मिल पाई और जिसकी वजह से इतना बड़ा हादसा हुआ।
हादसा शॉर्ट सर्किट से हुआ। इसमें बहुत बड़ी सराहनीय माननीय ब्रिजमोहन मिश्रा ब्लॉक प्रमुख द्वारा जो है कि सहयोग दिया गया।
ये बताइए कि कितनी बजे की घटना है और किस तरीके से ये हादसा हुआ और किस वक्त ये हादसा हुआ उस समय पंडाल में कुल कितने लोग मौजूद होंगे? लगभग
करीब 200-250 आदमी थे उस समय पंडाल में और घटना का समय करीब 9 बजे के आसपास।
वहाँ पे भीड़ जुटा था, उसके बाद जागरण भी था वहाँ पे, फिर पब्लिक जुटी हुई थी, मतलब 250 से पब्लिक थी। अंदर से मतलब साइड से आग फेंकने अचानक से पब्लिक मतलब घबरा गई, उसके बाद पब्लिक भागने लगी।
जब आग लगी तो भगदड़ टाइप की मच गई, तो कहीं न कहीं से शासन को ये देखना चाहिए था अगर पंडाल भव्य कोई आयोजन है तो यहाँ पर फायर ब्रिगेड की व्यवस्था की जाए और समुचित उपाय किए जाए जो एक पंडाल पे मानक के अनुसार होने चाहिए, वो नहीं किया गया था। उसमें स्थिति बहुत भयावह थी। जो भी लोग थे उसमें अफरा तफरी में किसी को कुछ समझ में नहीं किसको क्या किया जाए, क्योंकि आग अपने भयानक रूप से पकड़ चुकी थी। सब अफरा तफरी पूरा रोड पे मचा हुआ था, लेकिन प्रशासन की तरफ से मौके पर लोगों को मदद मिला। यहाँ जो भी रोड पे आवाजाही लोगों का था उन्होंने सबका मदद किया है।
बड़ी संख्या में जो लोग थे जो झुलसे हुए थे उन्हें बीएचयू रेफर किया गया और इसके लिए बाकायदे ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बनाया गया। ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बनाकर बीएचयू के ट्रामा सेंटर में भर्ती कराया गया और जहां लोगों का इलाज फिलहाल चल रहा है। बताया ये जा रहा है कि अब तक लगभग 60 से 70 के आसपास जो लोग हैं वो इस अग्निकांड में झुलसे हुए हैं, जबकि दर्जन भर के आसपास जो लोग हैं वो उनकी मौत हो चुकी है। हालांकि जो अभी तक जो आधिकारिक आंकड़ा है वो 4 से 5 बताया जा रहा है, लेकिन जो स्थानीय लोग हैं वो ये बता रहे हैं कि लगभग 10 से 15 लोग इस हादसे की भेंट चढ़ चुके हैं।
Heart-wrenching, isn't it? Well, with that, a short break. Don't go anywhere.
there was a big song and dance about internet being cut. Okay. Now, if you reach a stage where you say an internet cut is more dangerous than the loss of human lives, then what can I say?
India's illegal and unilateral actions of 5th August 2019 to change the internationally recognized disputed status of Jammu and Kashmir and to alter the demographic structure of the occupied territory further undermined the prospects of peace.
Welcome back. You're watching Times Now. Well, it has been a mega boost to India's Atmanirbhar air firepower. Indigenously made light combat attack chopper Prachand was inducted into the Defence Forces today. In fact, the induction ceremony took place at Jodhpur Air Force Station in the presence of Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh and IAF Chief V.R. Chaudhary. In fact, the induction of the Prachand choppers into the Air Force is a massive boost to our combat prowess as well. In fact, these choppers are capable of flying at very high altitudes and armed with a range of missiles. Well, the helicopter has been tested in the Ladakh region, where India faces the threat of Chinese incursions. Now, the LCH is a dedicated combat vehicle. It seems that LCH is the only attack helicopter in the world that can possibly land and take off at an altitude of 16,400 feet with a considerable load of weapons as well as fuel, meeting the specific requirements of the Indian Armed Forces. Well, the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and IAF Chief V.R. Chaudhary hailed India's military might and said that the induction of the chopper will further strengthen India's national security.
प्रचंड शक्ति, प्रचंड वेग और प्रचंड प्रहार की क्षमता वाले इस LCH का इंडक्शन हमारी एयरफोर्स की कैपेबिलिटीज में बढ़ोतरी के साथ साथ रक्षा उत्पादन क्षेत्र में आत्मनिर्भरता की ओर भी यह एक बड़ा कदम है। अमृतकाल की प्रारंभिक वेला में इस पराक्रमी LCH का इंडक्शन देश की आजादी के शताब्दी वर्ष तक इंडियन एयरफोर्स को दुनिया की सर्वश्रेष्ठ एयरफोर्स बनाने में आपके संकल्प को दर्शाता है। साथ ही यह शताब्दी वर्ष तक रक्षा उत्पादन क्षेत्र को पूर्ण आत्मनिर्भर बनाने के आपके संकल्प को भी दिखाता है।
Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in the history of the Indian Air Force as we formally induct the formidable indigenous light combat helicopter into our arsenal. Presently, we have one of the most versatile, potent and operationally tested fleets in the world. 143 helicopter unit has the proud privilege of being the first LCH equipped unit in the armed forces. The personnel of the unit have been specially selected based on their professional competence so as to operationalize the unit at the earliest and to exploit the helicopter to its full potential. Our helicopter crews have displayed courage and determination during HADR operations across the length and breadth of our country. The helicopter fleet was also amongst the earliest to embrace the process of indigenization. Induction of the light combat helicopter adds a unique capability to Indian Air Force's combat potential. The versatility and offensive potential of this platform is at par or better than most attack helicopters operating globally. Its ability to deliver a wide array of weapons combined with superlative self-protection capability makes this helicopter a lethal machine, one to be feared by any adversary. The helicopter has also successfully proved itself in the daunting heights of the Himalayas.
that, let's move on the bulletin now. A key accused in the Sidhu Moosewala murder case escaped from the Mansa Police Crime Investigation Agency's unit custody in Punjab. Well, Deepak Tinu, he is one of the close aides of gangster Lawrence Bishnoi. The accused escaped after he was being transported from the Mansa jail in Punjab by a police team. In fact, now questions are being asked as to why Tinu was taken in a private vehicle by the police team. In fact, a manhunt has now been launched to nab Tinu. However, Sidhu Moosewala's mother has accused the state police of shielding the gangsters and said that while the case has been hushed up by the police, the gangsters are getting all the facilities in jail.
ना कोई रिस्पॉन्स मिला साडी पुलिस तो पंजाब पुलिस तो सानू कोई रिस्पॉन्स मिला ये इतना मन दुखी है ना.
Now, even as the gangster Tinu's escape left the Punjab police really red-faced, the Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Singh Mahan, who is in Gujarat, was also seen playing Garba at the Navratri festival. The BJP has taken potshots at Chief Minister Mahan, accusing him of ignoring his own responsibilities as the Chief Minister of the state.
The Punjab police can do nothing but watch helplessly when the main accused in Moosewala murder, Deepak Tinu, who is a Bishnoi gang member, escaped from their custody. This is because ever since the Aam Aadmi Party has come to power, they have not ensured crackdown on mafia and gangs. In fact, they are supporting and helping them. And therefore, if you see, every day 1 or 2 murders and such kinds of criminal activities take place. RPG attack took place on the police headquarters. Moosewala ji was murdered because his security of Jatedar of Akal Takht was withdrawn, for which the Aam Aadmi Party government was chastised. And every time the Punjab police wants to do a crackdown on the drug mafia, Aam Aadmi Party MLAs and other leaders stop them from doing their work.
So, in fact, let me go across to Gurpreet. He's joining us live from Chandigarh. This is hugely embarrassing, isn't it, for the Chandi government that on one hand, this is besides the politics where Chief Minister Mahan can be seen performing Garba, you have the BJP asking some very serious questions, and this is very serious indeed. How did someone who is of a high security prison manages to disappear under the nose of the Punjab police?
Well, yes, of course, this has become one of the major political issue, and we have seen some of the leaders from Congress, they had raised this question in the House. Now they allege that they are not being spoken by the Aam Aadmi Party leaders in the House, but this has become one of the major question at this point of time, why the Aam Aadmi Party has failed to control law and order situation in the state. At the same time, if we can talk about that how this accused has been managed to escape from the police custody, when we have seen so many times huge security had been given to such criminals when they are being taken to the various locations of Punjab, and huge deployment of the force with them. But as of now, what we have learned from the police officials, they say in a private vehicle he was being taken to some place from where he was able to escape from that location. Now we have seen the leader of opposition Pratap Singh Bajwa, he has already put a question mark of the law and order machinery in the state, and they say today in the Vidhan Sabha they had raised this issue and asking the Home Minister to give an answer. They had also said the heads should be rolled from up towards downwards. Merely arrest of the police officer who was investigating the case, that is not enough at all, and we have seen in so many cases. Last night we have seen and the singer was also
Moosewala's family now saying is that the gangsters are being shielded. These are very serious charges, all of them coming in from the border state of Punjab. Well, thank you so much for putting a perspective on that, Gurpreet. With that, we're going to be wrapping up this bulletin. Don't go anywhere. We return in 2 minutes.
This festival